Put a little comment here. Do you have the chat? You have the chat feature, Brandon?
Yeah, I see it over there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you can. I'm just gonna let them know we're here, and some people will join the room. We'll see viewers pop up here in a minute. Yeah, so now it just shows us we've been live for 15 seconds.
All right, awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we'll let some people get in here before we really start talking too much. I mean, we can make small talk for a little bit. Hey guys, so it looks like Buzzbomb Records. Sean is in here.
Nice.
Mick, and can you see who's in the room on yours as well?
Actually, I'm not seeing anything on the chat side.
Nothing?
Actually, maybe it's because I'm on private chat. Let me go to live chat. That's what's screwing me up. There we go.
Now you got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
There's Mitch. There's Melinda. Hey guys. Good. Yeah, we'll figure we'd get a few people in here before we really started getting deep into things.
Because you know how we get. But yeah, thanks for stopping by, guys. Great to see you.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a handful in here. So how is everybody doing tonight? So good. The chat feature is working. What's up, Mitchell? How are you, man?
What's going on, Mitch? How you doing, man?
We got the Melinda Murphy.
There.
Hello.
How's it going, Melinda? Good to see you.
So we just figured we were gonna do this this live, kind of like Steve and I did a week ago. Brandon and I had been talking about doing this for gosh, it seems like forever now, right?
Yeah, and this is my first one too, so this is like double awesome for me.
yeah, definitely. And number one, thank you for accepting and to join. Accepting my invitation to join and do this live with me. It's great to be able to host one, but to be able to host one with the Mr. Hall of Fame is pretty awesome. It's really awesome.
Well, I appreciate it, man. It's just so cool because I'm like, again, I said I've never done one before, but then watching them, it's like 5-10 times more engaging than just watching even just the regular VC videos that you get so into. And it's just experiencing people live in real time with the feedback. I was like, man, I've got to do one of these. So yeah, I really appreciate you asking me to jump on board and do one.
You're welcome, man. I mean, I can't think of anybody else I would rather have on the first Billy Hurst live we did. I know we've talked about possibly getting other people involved as well. So who knows how long we're going to be in the middle of this, man? How long are we going to be in the middle of this? I mean, I hope everybody's passing the time well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know myself. I just been kind of, really buckling down. I haven't been going out that much, and just, it kind of pays off to live in a record store because when you're locked in, then I'm just gonna hang around the record store all day long.
Oh yeah. And Melinda, that is way too kind. You're overselling it. 2 VC legends. There's one VC legend in here, and then there's me.
You guys are making me blush. Would you stop?
Right.
Well, I appreciate it, Melinda. That's really nice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
In the room, I think Andrew said he had to work tonight. What's up, Andrew?
There's Andrew right there. How you doing, man?
Yeah, joining us from work. He's hopefully not going to be in trouble from.
That's what I was going to say. Thanks for stopping by, but don't get fired, man.
Right. Yeah, you got to work, man. Got to work.
Oh man.
So somebody asked Lucille Childs, Brandon, did I see Joe Diffie? I'm still waiting on mine. Brandon, you didn't get that new Joe Diffie, did you?
No, I don't think so.
No. That one is
something in the background that I think they're saying.
Probably that green one up top. What is that green? You want to talk about those vinyl?
This one up here?
Yeah,
that's Static X. Yeah, that's matter of fact, it's kind of going across. You got Slayer, Static X, that Testament, and that's actually Derek. I mean, everybody knows Derek Higgins here in the VC. He's put out a number of albums over the past couple years. That's one of his releases. And then Testament Low. Then you got Slayer. Anthrax, and what is that last one?
We can't see it.
I'm
So
having a hard time making up for the back.
the last one we can see is the Anthrax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was kind of telling you earlier, it's with these shells back over here, I just use those to take advantage of the artwork that comes with having a vinyl collection. And with all of my albums, I know a lot of people will put the sleeves and everything in the back so you can actually see the labels and everything while they're sealed. But I only do that with my colored vinyl.
It's a great
or
idea.
Picture disc. Yeah. Other than that, I just keep everything sleeved like normal. So every now and then I'll get a kind of a hair up my rear to say, hey, what's something neat to do over here? And about a week ago, I thought, let me just display some of the colored vinyl.
You heard it here first, folks. Brandon only puts his sleeves in the back if they're colored vinyl. So when you see it's only natural habit that I will start doing that now, and then somebody else will follow, and somebody else will follow. But you heard it here first. Brandon started doing it there.
And it always made sense until you said it out loud right back to me. Now it makes no sense whatsoever.
That makes perfect sense because you want to see your colored vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, why put them in the sleeve?
Right.
I totally understand what you're saying there, man.
And to keep it strange, when I put them in the stacks, I put the vinyl facing forward, not the front cover.
That's that is strange, dude.
I don't know, man. You get an idea and you just run with it. I don't know.
That's totally strange. Oh man. So Melinda says both of you guys do such a wonderful job of organizing and storing your stuff. Thank you, Melinda. I have taken notes from the king here, man. He is I can't tell you how many times I have called him or shot him a text at any time of the day or night and been like, dude, I hate you, but I love you, because it's like, man, when you are going through and purging stuff and pulling out the best, finding the best pieces, cleaning, sleeving, both inner sleeve and outer sleeve, as well as going through Discogs, which Brandon has me to thank for that. That is a beast in and of itself.
Oh my gosh,
trying to find the appropriate pressing. That can be overwhelming. But
yeah.
What I've been trying to do, I'm still trying to get my country section down and all cleaned and organized and purged. I'm about halfway there.
Yeah. Well, I started putting my stuff in Discogs on the very first, like January 1st of this year. And I think right now I'm at like 3,100 pieces in. And it's just, like I said, you start going through stuff and next thing you know, it's like I've spent 3 hours, but usually if I get at least 30 pieces in a day, I consider myself doing pretty good.
Yeah. You want to answer Lucille's question?
Lucille, what, flap or no flap on sleeves? I go flap. I definitely like the flap. Yeah.
Yeah, we Brandon and I both like the Blake type. And just so you know, we may do this different, Brandon. I put the flap on the side. So when I open mine, I'm able to pull the record in and out there without pulling the jacket. A lot of people put it on the top, on the back, and then you're constantly pulling the jacket in and out of the sleeve.
Right. Yeah, and I do the exact same thing. When I put mine in, I put it on the side right over here, and then I always, if the jacket will accommodate, always put the inner sleeve so I don't have to take it out, and I can just slide the record right in and out.
That's exactly how I do it as well. Yeah, that works for me. It really does work well.
Yeah.
So thanks, Andrew. Andrew said, both of us have amazing Japanese collection, and Mitch is in the room as well. Mitch has a freaking tremendous Japanese collection.
Awesome.
Which, you know what, that we may actually, how about we maybe we'll touch base. I know Mitch and I talked about doing a Japanese video, but maybe we can three-way that one.
Yeah, that'd be a blast.
We'll see if we can maybe make that happen.
Yeah. A little bit unfair though, because I mean, what you've done with your Japanese collection over the past year and a half is just freaking ridiculous.
Well,
Oh my gosh, man.
you know,
It's
a lot of it
ridiculous.
just comes down to just you got to be particular. You got to stick to your guns. All of us are pretty particular on condition and price and things like that. Not only condition of the vinyl, being complete, but condition of the jackets, things like that. But also, just like Andy Borders, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago? He started picking. He made that list at the beginning of the year, checking off grails, and I thought that was cool. So that was my first thing. I'm like, I'm gonna check off some grails, as opposed to. I mean, we all spend money frivolously on tons of different things, especially vinyl. We all have a little bit of a habit. So if I just think, if we dial that back, and you put that money into other things, you're so much better for it in the end.
Yeah. If you'd rather have those 3 $24.99 pieces or that one very solid, whatever
piece or whatever.
Right.
Absolutely. Right. And that's it. Don't get me wrong. We all know it hurts to cut loose of $100 bill or a couple $100 for a record. We all know the feeling, I'm sure. But it's all relevant to different people too. Some people are, bargain hunters, and they can find the best stuff, not junk. I'm talking good stuff, good condition, for $5 or so. They'll hold out just to find those bargains. And so to them, maybe that $25 pressing, maybe that's a lot. Maybe it's hard to. So it's all relative,
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the interesting comments that I tend to get on a lot of my videos, where people will say something like, you must have a ton of money invested in your records, or you must spend a lot. And I think a lot of people would be very surprised at how little a bit of money comes out of my pocket with most of the stuff that I buy.
Right.
Because I'm just all about the flipping, fine bargains, selling things, upgrading something to something else. And, I just feel like you really have to get creative to afford this habit sometimes, when you don't have the type of cash flow just to go out and buy everything you want.
Yeah, exactly. You made a good point when you said, money in, money out. Even with my collection, since you kind of got me involved on the purge last summer, remember when I purged a lot of my rock and metal stuff? I had a ton of credit, and still have some credit. But yeah, I was able to pick up some tremendous stuff over the last year and a half, without spending a whole lot of money.
Yeah. There's a guy named Jesse who works at a local store a few towns over, that in Jefferson City, where I go to work sometimes. And he and I were talking one day, and we were just kind of breaking some stuff down. And I said, literally, I can go into my collection and think about $30 or $40 that I spent buying records that I sold, and purchased at least $1,500 of records in return, just from finding grails and stuff here and there, and being able to sell them and flip them, and turning a $3 purchase into $200 worth of funds in a PayPal account to be able to buy the thing. So that's one lesson too that I would probably give, not necessarily to beginners, but maybe people that are already into buying vinyl and stuff like that. When you're out digging, look for stuff that you want, but man, look for stuff that you can flip too.
Absolutely. And it's just what that points to what Vinyl Guru just said. Hey, Vinyl Guru's in the house.
Hey, what's up, man?
She says, I guess that it depends on where you live. Different cities, better thrifts. Yeah, everybody has different honey holes or hotbeds. And like Brandon said, always look for yourself. But man, keep an eye out for stuff you can flip and turn a $20 bill into $100 bill pretty quick. I mean, really, you can do that, definitely. Mitch says that he's purged a lot of his U.S. pressings once he found Japanese pressings. How about you, Brandon? I know you. I think we've talked, and you kind of do the same, even when you upgrade a new U.S. pressing, even maybe a reissue. You want to touch base on that?
Yeah, like initially when I started doing some of those different upgrades, I would sell maybe something that I had that wasn't quite in good condition, or sell a US pressing to get a Japanese pressing. But like now though, I've started to, and this is kind of your fault, quite frankly, you
Well,
know,
why is it always got to be my fault?
just like you blame me for the organizational stuff,
Right.
I blame you a ton for the pressing stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like you're the one that has driven so much about what I do with pressings. And so I used to get rid of, you know, a US press when I got a Japanese pressing, but now I'm like, well, do I really want to get rid of this, or do I just want to be patient? And so I actually have now what's called an overflow section in my collection, a tab section. And so that is typically stuff where if I have like a Japanese pressing of something, but I want to keep a really nice mint US pressing or whatever, or UK pressing, whatever it might be, I just put that over into my overflow section.
Yeah.
So I'm almost like making a separate collection inside of my collection, more or less.
That's great. We have had a great comment here from Old Fart 62. He says, "Which do you feel is better, Japanese or German?" To me, I think it's better is not always better.
Mm.
Cooler, there's cooler. Japanese is the cooler of the two is hands down Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Japanese is always necessarily better from an audiophile perspective. I have
Yeah.
tons of German pressings that I love. They are the best sounding pressings in my collection, as far as, like, say, for that discography, like Bad Company or Foreigner. I have all the Foreigner in German pressing, and they're all the best. And it doesn't matter if it's a MoFi or whatever. So yeah, some of those German pressings I really love.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you, man. I think it really is one where the cool factor comes into play a little more. And that's the other thing that I always try to help people understand, those that like aren't in the VC and or aren't really in, you know, the vinyl and stuff like that. Is like you really have to balance the audiophile side of just listening to music and enjoying it, what sounds the best, and the fact that we are collectors.
Right.
And sometimes people don't want to separate, or they don't want to give us both of those personalities, if you will. And so it's like, well, yeah, even if maybe this German pressing sounds a little bit better than this Japanese pressing, there's just such a coolness factor from the collection side for the Japanese pressing.
Yeah.
It's hard to not say that I don't want that in hand either. But
yeah, the coolness factor of the Japanese is really, really what attracts me. I'm going to be honest. Just
yeah,
first and foremost, the coolness factor. But they do sound different. You know, Loose
Mhm.
Seal. There, I have a lot of times even the order may be different. And like Mitch said, to touch on what Mitch said, it all comes down to the mastering. You know, how it
right.
was mastered. You know, Liam has a great point here. He keeps pressings and sometimes other imports too. I do as
Mhm.
well. I've recently found, when I was on a trip with Melinda, actually, believe it or not, in a little store in her hometown. We went to this. I wish I could remember the name of it. Melinda will know, but I found a Taiwanese pressing of a Jim Croce record, and I got it. It was like $12. I picked it up. It was in great condition. You know, it's one of those flimsy little jackets, but the record was in VG plus condition or better. It was nice. I got it home, and man, I was blown away. It was a deep groove pressing,
Mhm.
really, really nice, and it sounded stellar. So I
Yeah.
have since actively seeked out other Taiwan pressings of the Jim Croce stuff,
Hmm.
and they all sound great. They're getting hard to find though, because Discogs is blocking those sales on those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cream
Yes.
Wheel of Fire German original. Oh yeah, yeah, a great album too, by the way. Man,
Yeah.
a nice original German Wheels of Fire. That's sick. Definitely sick.
Well, it's Andrew. I mean, you've seen his collection.
Oh God,
Everything he has is sick.
I can't believe. So for hopefully all you guys are subbed to Andrew.
Oh yeah.
I just for some reason, I mean, I've been in the VC now almost 4 or 5 years, and how did I miss Andrew, man? Dude.
I don't know, man, but I mean, he does have an amazing collection. I
Yeah.
mean, And another one of those guys too, that just his taste of music just goes everywhere. So I mean, you never know what he's going to throw up on the screen, which is just awesome.
And that's saying something, especially coming from you. But even me, I feel like, I'm kind of a little bit more hick or hillbilly, because I'm first and foremost country, but then my metal comes, it's like one A and one B, or one and one A. So it's country and then metal, and then everything else kind of all melds in there together,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, we're getting way off topic here, but I'm loving the discussion here. The great questions. The record spinner asks, "What's up, fellas? Do you either of you seek out half-speed master cuts?" You want to take this one, Brandon?
I just started getting into those half-speed masters, and I mean, like literally, I probably have just maybe 6 or 7 in my collection that I've stumbled across. So that's really one of the things I've always found with my collecting habits is I just get on these different spurts and I focus on something for a while, and then something else will just kind of catch my attention, and it's just always kind of always growing in your collection. And the half speed masters are something that are totally new to me, so I'm excited about starting to dive into those.
Yeah, I don't actively seek them out, but when I find them, especially if they're at a good price, I'll pick them up. Mitch actually sent me one. Billy Joel, Innocent Man, sent me one of those CBS half-speed masters.
Yeah.
And it sounds fantastic. On the other hand, Rob, Black Star Vinyl, was nice enough to send me a CBS half-speed master of Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell.
Oh,
And
wow.
it just doesn't. While it sounds better, here's the thing. It sounds better than the regular pressing. The regular pressing is just awful. They cram too much on the record. They just tried. It should have made it a double LP, but they didn't. While it does sound better than that, it doesn't sound anywhere near like any of the new reissues. So, yeah. So always the half speed master is not always the best.
Yeah. And you did get that Bruce Springsteen recently, didn't you? A half-speed master of Bruce.
And it's the best sounding copy of that I have.
Yeah, that's nice.
Born to Run, what a killer album.
Yeah.
I'm glad you remember that. Yeah, there's so Liam, he read your mind, Brandon. You got to get the Springsteen Born to Run, and I actually picked that up with Melinda as well.
Yeah.
Melinda. Whenever I met up with Melinda and we went to her local shop, she was just like uber concerned about, this shop's just not really I don't feel you'll find anything good. Hell, I walked out of there with a stack of records this high. It was great. It was a really, really killer shop. And the prices were great. He had a great variety. I could not complain at all. I would go back, Melinda, anytime to that place.
Well, she must be shopping in the right places somehow when you see the stuff she's showing on her channel all the time. I mean, she brings in phenomenal stuff, man.
Yes, she does. If I can remember right, I think she said her husband they'll go out to Louisville and Nashville. So it's like an hour either way to head to Louisville or down to Nashville. Maybe an hour and a half to Nashville. I'm not sure, but in between her place in Nashville is a sweet little honey hole in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Mellow Matt's music. We need to make a run there, Brandon, because it's only a few hours. You and I need to go because you'll love it. Mellow Matt's is fantastic, dude.
Yeah. I would definitely like to. I think I've actually mentioned it to Melinda a couple of times. I would love to get down that area and see some of those stores that she hits because, like I said, she's constantly bringing in some really great stuff, which is awesome.
Right.
That'd be a fun trip. We get past this stuff.
Absolutely. So somebody giving some Brandon some Mr. Hall of Fame love.
15
year old me spend all my money on records. There you go. So Brandon, somebody else hates you too.
Yeah, that's amazing. You say 9 years ago. That means you're 24 now. Jeez, and am I really that old?
We're that old.
I think the answer is yes. but no, that's awesome. I appreciate you kind of sharing that with me. I mean, this has been it has been about 10 years or so since I've been in kind of the whole, before it was the VC and all of that though. So yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of people kind of coming and going. So when people are still, hanging around, and that's awesome.
So
Really awesome.
the question for you, Rock and Roll Rebel, is when he was 15 and Brandon kind of got him started and making him spend all his lunch money on records. Uh, Imagine the collection he has over the past 9 years now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine it being, man, if I could go back to my 15-year-old self. And now, granted, I always bought vinyl when I could. It was a lot cheaper then, but yeah, I would. What would you tell your 15-year-old self? You got
Oh, man.
that would have been 1989, man, for me.
Yeah. Gosh, when I was 15, I'm not gonna say what year it was, but when I was 15, cassettes were still the big thing.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even really started working at that point in time. I didn't start working until I was 16. So a lot of the cassettes and stuff that I had was just a lot of dub stuff, where I would borrow tapes from friends and record them on some of those little, cheap Walmart, a pack of 3 for 99-cent cassette tapes. And I would take the inner sleeves out and give them to my dad and say, hey, could you take these to work and make some photocopies of them? So he'd photocopy the sleeves and bring them back, and I would cut them out. And I had this little black and white sleeve with this little, generic Kmart tape. And I just had like tons of tapes. And that's how I had a good chunk of my music. So, because I didn't have the money and stuff to really buy, cassettes and everything back then.
Right.
But I was still jamming out.
Man, did you see how long Old Fart's been collecting records? Longer than both of us combined.
Jeez.
Yeah.
52 years.
52.
I would love to hear a little bit about the concert history, some of the artists you've seen over that time frame.
Oh, yeah.
Can't even imagine.
When you mentioned that, Brandon, when you it's hard to talk about concerts and live shows without thinking of Rob, Boston Rob.
Yes.
Dude, every time he'll comment on, and he comments on every one of our channels, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Everybody in here, man, that dude, you show 10 albums, he's got 10 stories of shows he's seen.
And the stubs to prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone has seen as many fantastic concerts as Rob has. You almost want to believe he's making it up because he doesn't look old enough. And how did you even manage to have the time to go to as many shows as he's been to?
Hey.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So talking on the cassettes.
Oh, yeah. I used to buy were hip hop. Yeah, it's funny because the first cassette that ever came out of a store that I owned was one that I had to ask for Christmas, and it was a Billy Idol Rebel Yell. I was in 5th grade when I asked for that cassette, and sure enough, I got it for Christmas, and I thought it was just like the coolest thing in the world. My mom even has a picture of me standing by the Christmas tree with this little Billy Idol cassette, and I still have that exact copy to this day.
That's killer.
Since 5th grade.
So I know we're talking cassettes here. My first cassette that I bought with my own money was Quiet Riot, Mental Health. So that would have been right around the same time. That would have been that 83, 84 time. Somebody did ask, though, about here we go. The first record we bought with our own money. So mine, I've said it in a lot of my videos. Usually you'll see these kind of things answered in a vinyl tag or something. But mine was Ace Frehley solo record. Yeah, the Kiss solo record. What about you?
I'm not 100% clear because just the quick story on it. I used to collect baseball cards. That was my big thing when I was in grade school. So we used to take the city bus downtown to go to the baseball card shop. And one day we were killing some time waiting for the bus to come. We ran to this little record shop, and that was the first time I ever saw Kiss Alive 2. And I remember just pulling it out and opening up the gatefold, and I was just like, I have no freaking idea what this is, but I gotta have it. Like I have no clue. And I think on that same day, I bought a 12-inch single of the Earons' Land of Hunger. And so I think one of those two is technically the first album that I bought. I don't remember which one I picked off the shelf first.
Yeah, I remember you saying that in the video. Don't go giving away all our Kiss secrets here. Don't be telling all our Kiss secrets. So at some point we got to start talking. We got to start doing our Gimme 10.
I guess so. Yeah.
We've been on here for 30 minutes, dude, and it seems like we just logged on.
Fine. I know.
Uh,
All right. You want to jump into it?
this is how, guys, I got to tell you, this is how it is when Brandon and I get together. Number one, I am blessed to be able to be this close to this dude. We're like 40 minutes away, and we try and get together as often as we can, but it's definitely not near often enough.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome, man. When you just have someone there that gets you, just allows you to kind of open up and let it all out, and it actually makes sense to somebody else. That's kind of magical. Whatever you're into in life, whatever that is, there's just not a lot of opportunities that you always get to be around someone that just truly gets you.
Yeah. Why is Jerry Maguire coming to mind right now?
Didn't mean to go there, man.
It's all love, dude.
I think we need to talk about metal now.
Yeah, metal.
We need to get manly again.
Yeah. So let's jump into this Gimme 10. So Brandon and I were kind of talking just random conversations that we have. Sometimes it's like, and we don't, believe it or not, we don't always talk about music. Sometimes we'll talk about movies or food. We usually talk about food too, because we'll throw down on some food when we get together. But one night we were talking about doing this live, and we were like coming up with some ideas, and I'm sure it's been done. I think I told Brandon, I'm like, I haven't seen it personally in the last 4 or 5 years. But I'm sure he's seen it, and maybe there's been some sort of a little bit of it here, a little bit of it there. But as far as the Gimme 10 is concerned, you see a lot of those going around. And I thought, you know what? There are a lot of bands that we've all gotten into or love dearly, really dig, that maybe we didn't get into them until really late. So we thought, there we go. Let's talk about that. Let's pick a Gimme 10. We'll try not to step on each other's toes too much. So I'll start it off. Being the kind of I've kind of been labeled as the resident country guy in the VC, I guess, which I wear with pride. I wear that badge with pride and honor. But Steve, Harmless Rebel, LJ, LJ has stepped down and taken a break for various reasons. Lord knows what's up with LJ, but God, we all miss LJ, man.
Yeah.
I think I speak for every one of us when I say we need LJ back making videos, man.
He was a personality and a half, man.
But LJ had just such great taste in music and all over the board.
Yeah.
I love that dude, man. Biosite 1. He's the reason I started making videos. He really is.
Cool.
I reached out to him, and when you think of a guy in the VC that has as many subs as he has, and you look at him as kind of a larger than life figure, really.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch his videos, because his personality is just like freaking off the chart.
Yeah.
And when you see a guy like that, and he's got thousands and thousands and thousands of subs, you're like, this dude. Number one, I didn't even have a YouTube channel yet. I wasn't. I mean, I'm nobody anyway, but I wasn't. I was below nobody then. I reached out to him back when you could actually reach out and message people on YouTube. I sent him a message, and the next day he sent me a message back, encouraging, warm-hearted, like very supportive. Like, dude, just get in there and do it, man. Who cares if what people think or what they like? Just do it, And if you're yourself, you be yourself, you're true to yourself, and you what you like, and you talk about it with honesty and passion, people will relate. And he was right, man. He was so right.
Yeah.
So
LJ was awesome.
Let's talk about some country for 1 second. So Gimme 10, number 1. I'm going to start with Waylon. This is somebody who I got into late. Very late in the game, obviously just because of my age. Waylon came in a long time before I was buying records. But my story on Waylon begins as probably a 4 or 5 year old kid watching the Dukes of Hazzard, man. And on Friday nights when you'd hear the theme song, Just Good Old Boys, never meaning no harm. And Waylon even they showed his hands on TV picking that guitar. And this is the only album. Well, this was the album that came out what was it, 1979. So I was 5 years old. And I had to have it for the Dukes of Hazzard theme song.
Mhm.
And lo and behold, fell in love with everything on here. And then I started going back and getting it. But this is 20 albums in for Waylon, man. And it's
Yeah.
my favorite. I mean, it's a greatest hits comp, so it's kind of cheating. But this is what opened the gates for me for Waylon right here.
Okay.
That's
Cool. Cool.
my first one there.
All right, well, the first one I'm going to go with, and I want to make a distinction too, as I'm going through all of my picks here. I don't count if there's a single that came out of a song or a single that came out by a group and you really kind of like that single, but you never really went and dove into the group or that album. I'm looking for the actual album that I was listening to from front to back, getting to know all the songs, and that's what pulled me into the group. So this is one that was kind of shocking when I thought about it, but Depeche Mode. I did not really get into Depeche Mode all the way up through Ultra, and this was what, 97, somewhere around there. And Depeche Mode had been killing it for years. But I remember when I saw them perform Strange Love one time on like the MTV uh, music award show or something like that. And I loved that single and I thought they were cool as heck and all of that, but didn't follow up with that album or anything else. But then when Ultra came out in 97 and I just start, I guess the kind of the first two tracks that were released on it was No Good and Useless. And those two songs just really captured me. And next thing you know, I'm diving into it and Barrel of a Gun and everything else. And I'm like, this group is freaking killer. And then I'm going back and discovering Celebration, Construction, Violator, like, those just mega albums. But if it wasn't for this here, it wasn't for Ultra, I wouldn't have made it back to that point.
That's awesome. It's
Awesome
always
album.
great, and that's why I wanted to do this too. It's always great hearing people talk passionately about stuff that maybe you're into, maybe you're not really into.
Mhm.
I would say I'm just a very very casual Depeche Mode fan.
Mhm.
However, when you can't help but kind of get inspired when you hear somebody like yourself talk about it, and you're like, maybe I should dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, yeah. And the one thing I'll add about Depeche Mode to me that kind of makes them so special is, when the 80s really came about, especially early 80s, and the synthesizer starts coming into play everywhere. And I kind of feel like the synth was something that gave people an easy way out in terms of you don't really have to make the greatest of songs. Like you don't have to be extra creative. That synth can kind of bail you out of a lot of things just because of what it could do. And Depeche Mode is one of those groups that totally embrace the synth, but they did not fall short whatsoever on the songwriting, the creativity, the lyrics. I mean, you listen to some of the lyrics throughout their songs, and it's poetry. And they just added the synth to take it to another level. So that's one of the things I think that's giving them so much staying power.
Right. So that's our first round there, first of Gimme 10. Buzzbomb, thank you
Wow,
so much.
that's awesome,
I mean,
man.
very, very cool to hear anybody say that they launched their channel because they watched you or you inspired them. That's awesome. I did get a message from Sean is the name, if I'm remembering it off the top of my head. And sorry if I am wrong, but I believe it's Sean. So yeah, guys, check out. I haven't had a chance, Sean, to check out your channel, but I will. I'm sure Brandon will. I'm
Yeah,
sure
I definitely
everybody.
will as well.
I'm sure
That's
everybody.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome,
Welcome to
awesome
the
place
VC.
to be, man.
Welcome.
Awesome place to be.
So you want to
So,
take you want to
yeah,
lead on number two?
yeah, I'll lead on number two, and I think this is one that we're both going to talk about. And actually, I'm going to say the name of the band first because that'll give people maybe a second to kind of think about which album I'm going to pull here. But
Yeah.
we have to talk about Iron Maiden because that's just an absolute classic, and they've their career has spanned decades now. And the album that first pulled me into Iron Maiden was Somewhere in Time, which I want to say is, I don't know if I can say it's still my favorite Iron Maiden album, but it's probably the one I listen to most from front to back. And I remember when I first got into this album, I wasn't really into metal outside of the hair metal and thrash and stuff like that at the time whatsoever. And a friend of mine right down the street, who's the one that introduced me to so much music, his name was Matt. He gave me this tape. And I just remember when he handed it to me and I saw the cover, and my attitude was, I don't know what's on this thing, but I have to like it. Like I have no choice but to like this album, because that is the coolest freaking thing I've ever seen in my life. And so I just started playing it all the time. And I think too, this is one of Maiden's more melody friendly albums for people that maybe aren't really into Maiden, kind of a good place to jump in. And, you know, with songs like Wasted Years and Heaven Can Wait and stuff like that. And yeah, I was just boom. And then from here, I started to discover, you know, Seventh Son and going back into all the early stuff and all of that.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic pick. And I'm glad this is one that we both actually decided we kind of shared. So your pick was Somewhere in Time. Well, I actually got into them just a hair later than that. And it was because a friend of mine, we played on the same baseball team together in high school, and he was always playing this stuff, man, in this little Chevette, this little piece of crap orange Chevette that he used to drive. The radio was all wired wrong, so every time he would hit the gas, this high pitched squeal would come through the speakers. And
awesome.
yeah, and I used to be like, turn this garbage off, because he would always be playing all this other stuff. And you got to remember, at this time, I'm just getting into country, and when I get into something, I dive head first into it. And so I was like immersing myself in country at the time, but I still loved my hard rock and heavy metal. But I'm pretty hard headed and set in my ways. It's like it's not that I won't get in or go and explore new things. It takes me a while to warm up to it. But this was the one that finally warmed me up to Maiden. Let's turn it that way. There we go. Seventh Son. It wasn't the first thing I heard by Maiden, but like you, it was the first thing that really caught my ear with the melodies of, your Can I Play with Madness? Still killer stuff. Seventh Son, and so many Evil That Men Do. So many great things that off that album. And of course, after that, I was like, okay, now I get it. Now I get why you guys love these guys. And then I went backwards. So it was Somewhere in Time. It was Power Slave, Number of the Beast, things like that. And just so many great things that those guys put out.
Yeah.
Just a legendary band, man.
That's awesome.
Look who's in the house here, man.
Nope.
Seriously, pro level. Number one, thank you, Dylan. We are honored. I know I'm honored and humbled that you would take time out and join us here, because you are killing it, man. Absolutely killing it.
Indeed, truly appreciate it, man.
He's the king of the live streams right there, man. Dylan. Thank you for that, Dill.
Yeah.
So let's move on to number 3. I think this is another one that you want me to take the lead on this one?
Yeah, why don't you go for this one?
Okay, so I think this might be another one that we kind of overlapped on, but I think we made sure that if we did overlap, we didn't overlap on the same album, which is crazy that we're both very close in age. I told my age. You kind of want to maintain you still got the boyish good looks.
46. I'll put it out there. 46.
Right where I'm at, man. You don't look a day over 45 and a half, Brandon.
Appreciate it. I'll take it.
That's right. So we ended up both coming in talking about Megadeth. So you guys know, if you've followed my videos, you know that Rust in Peace is my all-time. It's my favorite metal album of all time. So it's obviously, if it's my favorite metal album of all time, it's got to be my favorite Megadeth album. I mean, from the first time I heard the opening line of Holy Wars, I was hooked. I mean, it was literally hook, line, and sinker for me, man. Just so many great songs on here, and to me, this is the best the best lineup the band ever had. I know Chris Hansen, what lurks on Channel X, would strongly disagree with me, but I think these guys. You talk about this album, right, moving right into Countdown, moving right into Euthanasia. I mean, man, they're just killer records, man. And that was my first exposure to them, and it was probably what is that, like their fourth record? Yeah, that's like their fourth record, right?
Yeah.
Not that their other stuff is bad. Their earlier stuff isn't bad. It's just their earlier stuff to me, especially the first album, was really raw and unproduced. It wasn't polished. Like
Right.
this one's just amazing. And some of their other stuff, though, on the other end of that, they can take it a little bit too far, and you can only polish a turd so much, and it's still a turd, right?
Right.
As much as I love Megadeth, I'm not going to sit here and apologize for some of the crap they've made.
Well, that's cool. Actually, I didn't realize that was your favorite metal album. So that's
Yes, sir.
nice. Something. Now, the same token, I mean, looking at Megadeth, the first album that brought me to them was this one right here, which of course is Countdown to Extinction. So this was really the first time I heard Megadeth, and of course, the very first song I ever heard by them was.
I got to interrupt just real quick.
What's that?
As soon as you showed that, about 25 or 30 people's jaws hit the floor, which, I mean, everybody knows. Okay, let's get it out there. Why has there not been a reissue of that thing?
No clue. Well, there is a reissue if you want the picture disc.
Come on.
Which, again, is just a total joke. Total joke. Yeah, I have no idea why they haven't reissued this yet. Matter of fact, I mean, this one here, as you can see, has a little bit of wear, still great condition, but I have just been dying for a reissue to come out. But staying on topic here, first song I ever heard by Megadeth was Symphony of Destruction. And oddly enough, of all the places that I would discover that song, it was at a bodybuilding competition that I went to. And, back in the day, that's when I used to actually be in shape.
Speaking I used to prime years.
I just saw that. And I was doing this competition, and there was a guy who went on like 2 spots before me. And he walks out on stage and he kind of kneels down, almost like the way the Terminator looked when he came out of, traveling through time. And then so I'm sitting there waiting to see what he's getting ready to do. And all of a sudden that riff for Symphony of Destruction kicks in and he starts standing up like this robot. And I was just like, what in the world was that? And as soon as he got off stage, I was like, dude, what was that song you were playing? He was like, that's Megadeth. I'm like, what's a Megadeth? He was like, I'll tell you what it is. It's the CD that's going to be in your pocket tomorrow. And I was like, I went out the next day and bought the CD. And that was my introduction. So from there, I went back and found, Rust and Killing and all of that. But yeah, so Megadeth or Extinction was my intro to Megadeth.
That's a great one to kind of dip your toe in too, because while if it weren't for Headbangers Ball and a show like that, which is we look back on it now, and that was such a groundbreaking show. I mean, really, look, it introduced us, so many of us, to some killer bands. I can't tell you how many things I was turned on to through Megadeth as well.
Yeah.
If it weren't for Headbangers Ball, I guarantee you I would not have known about Megadeth until I heard Symphony of Destruction. Guaranteed. Because that blew up on MTV. Yeah.
Headbangers Ball. That's why I discovered Priest. I never heard of Judas Priest until Headbangers Ball.
We could do a whole show on what have we just give me 10 bands you discovered on Headbangers Ball. Who's in?
I'll just point to my metal collection. I mean, just look in there and you'll see it.
Right. Vinyl Guru's got a great question there for you, Brandon.
I feel like he just. Well, I appreciate it, man. I think it's one of those things in my family where we're born old. It's like we come out of the womb looking 50. It's just the way my family is. My mother, she's 72, 73 now. There's a picture of her when she was a 14-year-old cheerleader, and she looks the exact same way she looks today. It's amazing. And we don't say she looks young today. We say she looked 50 when she was 14. That's that's what she says. I mean, it just runs in our family.
The Pepsi Power Hour. So that was now what was it? Much Music, Dan? Did you guys have Much Music or MTV or Much Music was your guys' MTV? Am I wrong on that?
I've never heard of Pepsi Power Hour.
No, we're not in Canada, brother.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
Yeah. So Dan, answer me on that if you can.
All right. I hear you, Mitch.
Yes, Dan did say, Brandon, Much Music. That was their MTV. Because I remember when I was probably 13 or 14. My dad was like this. He always having the new technology and stuff, and he comes home with I'm not kidding, a truck full of this big box full of shit in the back of his truck. It's a satellite dish, and I'm not talking a DirecTV satellite dish. I'm talking a satellite dish as big as this room.
I remember those.
You had to put it together with screws, and it came in little, like it was like a pizza pie. You had to put it all together, and but we were able to get Much Music through one of the channels on there.
Oh,
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, stupid things.
I remember those big dishes.
All right, so
all right.
What number 3? Yeah, we're taking forever, man. Actually, this will be number 4, right?
Yeah.
Or
you want me to go again?
So I said Megadeth, and you did Megadeth. Yeah, go ahead, take the lead on this.
Okay. So the next one I picked was Dokken. Obviously that's another group that's kind of big from the hair metal time period. And I should say too, a lot of people tend to think that hair metal is supposed to be a negative term. I personally don't take it as a negative term. It's music I love. It's it's what it was. So I don't say it with any negativity behind it whatsoever, obviously. But so at Dokken, when I was thinking about the first album I really got into with them, it was Back for the Attack.
Nice.
And yeah, and so this album too, again, that Matt, the same name I keep bringing up all the time, the kid down the street, his brother worked at a radio station at the time. So, all of music that was available, his brother had in his collection. So Matt was always introducing us to it. And again, I'll never forget the day after school, we're hanging out at Matt's house. He always liked to roll his big speakers out of his mom's bedroom, just out into the living room area. And he throws on Kiss of Death, and that freaking guitar riff kicks in. And it's just another one of those, who and what is that? And I became obsessed with this album. And it really is a fantastic album, from the killer intro of Kiss of Death, Standing in the Shadows, Heaven Sent, again, very kind of pop-friendly kind of hair metal at the time. And of course, the classic track Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
Pretty much every track up and down on this album is just perfection of what was going on at the time. And I still listen to this album a lot. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Killer album.
Yeah.
Is that one that I actually picked up for you, a Japanese pressing one time when I was in like somewhere or
a Dokken?
Yeah. No?
I don't have a Dokken piece.
Maybe I kept it for myself.
Probably.
but David Newton, he's calling out Dream Warriors here, and of course Ron, Back for the Attack, and Buzzbomb, Breaking the Chains.
Yeah,
it's got some killer stuff, man.
That album is just awesome.
Great,
it really is.
Stuff. I seen here in the comments we were talking about Much Music, and Vinyl Guru is giving away secrets of her location there. She's because she'll put on the British accent in her videos, and darling and things like that. And I love the toodaloo, toodaloo. You crack me up, man.
Man.
You haven't. Who had? So Vinyl. I totally hate to compare anybody to Peaches, because Peaches is his own entity, man. The dude's just he's not making too many videos anymore. But man, Peaches, he's crazy goofy, and entertaining. But the Vinyl Guru, she's taking off like Peaches. And when Peaches came into the vinyl community, he took off like hotcakes. And Vinyl Guru is making a splash, so to speak. So Ron Haggerty, thank you for joining us, Ron. Ron says Tooth and Nail. Tooth and Nail is unbelievable, man.
Tooth and Nail is a fantastic one too.
Yeah. Of course, that's your, what was that, 84, 85? That's early stuff. Killer. Absolutely killer. So you said Dokken. I'm going to jump in and show my love and preach for Sammy Hagar, the Red Rocker. Love Sammy. Don't get me started on Van Halen. Van Hagar. We'll be here all night. Van Hagar. But Sammy, man, I can totally appreciate people who love Van Hagar, but don't really appreciate Sammy's solo stuff. It's not as good. I'll be honest. I think the Van Hagar stuff is untouchable. They made some amazing albums in the short time they were together. But I said we weren't going to get on the Van Hagar thing. Let's talk about Sammy. So I had a friend, just like your friend Matt. I had a friend Jason that was always. He had an older brother that was like 4 years older than us. So anytime we'd go over and spend the night at Jason's house, like Friday night, Saturday night, or it seemed like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday during the summer, it didn't matter. We would get hooked up with the most killer music, and Sammy Hagar was one of those. This is Rematch. It's and actually this is not the album. It is the album, but not the exact album that turned me on to Sammy. I actually had Rematch and More on cassette. The Rematch and More was not released on, as far as I know, on vinyl. It had a couple extra tracks on it, but this has got all the killer stuff. Red, I've Done Everything for You, which of course if you don't know the Sammy version, you got to know the Rick Springfield, Hospital Dude version. You got Rock and Roll Weekend, Cruising and Boozing, which he doesn't play anymore, because obviously I get it, the whole drinking and driving thing, but what a killer track, man. Cruising, wow, boozing. Music, Trans Am, Highway Wonderland, Love or Money, This Planet's on Fire, Plain Jane, Bad Reputation. Dude is awesome, man. You say what you want about Sammy Hagar. Freaking killer, man. That's what got me into the Red Rocker. And I went back and started getting his earlier studio albums after that. And I have to be honest with you, I don't care too much for a lot of his studio albums. I love it just because I love to hear Sammy sing. His vocals, are even today. Have you guys seen the stuff that he's doing with the Circle? And they're making their live quarantine concert video where they'll jam on a Who song or a Zeppelin song or whatever. Dude's 72 or 73 years old. He's freaking killer, man. Still singing all his songs in the same key and nailing it, just slaying it.
Amazing pipes. And that's the thing, like you said about Sammy, is you may go through his whole catalog and not really like, every single one of his records. I think they're all great. But what you'll do is as you're going through it, there'll be one song that'll jump out that never made the charts, never became a big anything. And you're like, that's one of the most incredible songs I've ever heard. Just because of the way Sammy delivers.
David, I can't believe I didn't mention Montrose as well, dude. Those first two Montrose albums, the self-titled and Paper Money, killer stuff. And those were the only two Montrose albums that Sammy was on. And then Ron, of course, mentions the Sammy's '87 solo self-titled. It's just called. Everybody knows it for Where Eagles Fly and things like that. But man, that's a Van Halen record right there, man. It really is. He owed, so the story was he owed the label another record, and he was already deeply ingrained and rooted in Van Halen at this point. So I think Eddie even played on that record. Ron, am I speaking out of turn there? I think Eddie played on that record, if I'm not mistaken. It's a killer record. Might be his best solo effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that song, A Deeper Kind of Love, is it off of 10? Is that what that album, or is it 13?
10, 13. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's one of his greatest solo tracks ever.
Yeah.
His vocals on that it just takes you to another place.
And Vic on guitar. I think obviously Sammy has had the great fortune of playing with so many tremendous guitar players, but Vic Johnson is a amazing dude. He does not get the love that he deserves. Vic Johnson's a beast, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, listen here. Now this is going to start some fights with some people. I agree. Thank you for
Very
having the balls to say that, Liam. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's not saying much, and we all love Paul Stanley. You know, old age sucks, man. It sucks getting old.
It hits some people harder than others, and it's definitely punched Stanley
in the nads.
I mean, you can't blame him. I mean, you've been doing it for what, 40 years? I mean, it's like, okay, you're allowed to get a little old.
Yeah, they've been doing it. It's been more than 40 years, hasn't it? I mean, almost 40.
Yeah, pushing 50. Yeah,
almost 50 years, dude.
That's insane.
Yeah,
and still put on a hell of a show.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. You know, we could talk about Paul's vocals and you know, the lip syncing, whatever. But what when you pay that $200 for that Kiss ticket or whatever it is, you're going to get your money's worth. They're going to give it to you. Yeah.
I think it's your turn again. You want to do another one?
Yeah, I'll jump in with another one here.
All right.
Let's see. We'll just jump right in. Boom.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to do my Bob Bradley. Bam. Pantera.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, this is an original German pressing on Atco. These are getting so hard to find, man. It's this thing. So the way that dude's getting punched in the face right there, that's exactly how I felt the first time I heard Walk and Mouth for War. Actually, I could go down and just that's the way I felt the first time I heard Mouth for War, A New Level, Walk, fucking Hostile. Just every one of them. This album is just it hits harder than any album I think I've got in my collection. This album is the shit. It's killer. And
awesome.
You know what, Brandon, you and I think talked about this last night. We are guilty. We're all probably guilty of showing albums that we love, that we think, you know, we all got a lot in common here. We all kind of like the same stuff. So we will tend to do this. Man, you all know this album. So there's no need for me to go in and talk crazy talk about this and go into detail. You guys know. But what's crazy is a lot of you probably don't know. And if you don't know about that album, you better know. You better ask somebody. You better ask somebody. Y'all better ask somebody.
Well, I'm kind of questioning now. Do you think I should tell my story about how I discovered Pantera, even though I didn't pick it?
Yeah,
remember I told you my girlfriend?
Oh yeah, that's a great story. You got to tell that story.
All right, so again, I've never heard of Pantera, and I was dating this girl, and one night she was like, "Let's go down to the adult bookstore and just kind of go walk around and blah blah blah." So I was like, "Well, yeah, cool, let's go down there." So we go down there, and I had a friend that used to work there, so I was curious if he still worked there, but he didn't. And we went then and we're kind of looking around, and there's a guy who's sitting back there working. He's playing this music, and he's playing Pantera. And it's like, I can't focus on anything that she's talking about because, again, what is this stuff? And I end up going to the counter and talking to the guy for like 20 minutes, and he's telling me about Pantera this and Pantera that. And just listening to what he was playing, I was just so moved by it. He was playing a CD. I was like, dude, I will leave my driver's license here if you just let me take this CD home and burn it really quick. I'll come right back. He was like, sure. It was a greatest hits CD. It was a Pantera's greatest hits. And so I ran home, burnt the CD, went back, gave it to him. And of course, at the end of my night, my girlfriend was like, I see where your priorities are. I was like, I guess so, man. Because this Pantera thing just took me over. I don't care about anything right now. Tell me what this stuff is. And it was that. It was just like everything he played was just punching you in the gut.
Every riff, that Dime would throw your way, every screaming vocal that Phil would deliver, Vinny's double bass, Rex's killer bass. Literally, they would hook you. The hook was set.
Mm-hmm.
You were not getting off that line, dude.
Mm-hmm. And you take all of that and then you make it this tight. They were just so tight, and there was nothing you can do with it but just ride it. That's all you could do.
You know what's sad is for a band to be that freaking good, and like you said, to be that tight and pack that much of a punch for this amount of time, and then let crazy stuff like outside influences and drugs and alcohol and totally just ruin it, man. I mean, if there ever was magic or lightning in a bottle, Pantera was it, dude.
Yes,
they were it. Old Fart, man. That I had to leave this one up because the fact that somebody, dude, if you've been collecting 52 years, I'm not gonna assume how old you are, but you've been around the block and you've heard some guitar players, and for somebody of your stature who's been around and seen what you've seen and heard what you've heard to say that, dude, that's killer.
Yeah, that man. Yeah, that's you can't say enough about it. You just had the right pieces that came together in a magical way. Oh my goodness.
So here's Headbangers Ball again, man. all hail Headbangers Ball, man. We've got to do a Headbangers Ball. I think we're going to be entrenched in this for a little while longer. So I think we'll have an opportunity to do a Headbangers Ball video.
Yeah,
maybe
that'd be fun.
Maybe raise your hand if you want to get involved. We might do a Royal Rumble on this baby. Accurate, over whoever steps over the ropes next, you better come with some heavy heat, man. You better come with some heat. So let's see what you got, Brando.
All right. So the next one we're gonna go with is looking at Van Halen. And so again, my introduction to Van Halen, and maybe quite a few people actually.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be 1984.
Now he's showing the heat. He's bringing it. Mitch is like, yeah, about time we saw some Japanese press. Mitch gave me crap because I didn't show my seventh son of a seventh son Japanese pressing. Which, hey, that's a toughie. The only reason I didn't, Mitch, is because I just showed it in my last video. I didn't want to be like rubbing it in too bad.
And he says rubbing it in at the same time. As you can see, I have a little Christmas card at the back of this album.
Yeah.
Which means it was given to me as a gift over Christmas from the one and only Billy Hurst.
You're welcome, man.
I have him to thank for this one being in my collection. But yeah,
to be honest, I got tired of him asking and crying about it every time he came over here to the house.
Even though it was your 5150 or OU812, I was trying to steal.
Yeah. You'd have to knock me out. You'd have to knock me out to get that one out of here.
This appeased me for the time, so I appreciate it.
So, Vinyl Gear, before you get started, I know I didn't want this to get lost in the shuffle. Did you guys hear the unreleased song that dropped like 5 years ago from that album? From what? From Vulgar Display of Power, or from 1984? Or we're kind of overlapping here. So let us know here real quick if you can, Guru.
Yeah, exactly. Either one, I would say no.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting to know.
I haven't heard anything. An unreleased track from Vulgar Display of Power. No. And I consider myself a pretty hardcore Pantera fan. So for me to have missed that, which, hey, there's so much stuff out there, man, so much crap we all are into. It's no surprise that I could have missed it.
Yeah.
I may have actually heard it, and probably, who knows, I could have been underwhelmed.
Yeah, and if you know the name of the song, I mean, please shoot it to us really quick, because I would love to know what that is.
Yeah, so go right in. Let's
Okay.
hit it with that.
Yeah, so 84 was definitely my introduction. Like most people, you know, when Jump and everything became such a big sensation, that was the first song I ever heard. Jump and Panama were the first two that kind of brought me in. And then it was kind of interesting too, because of course, right after 84 is when you had 5150, when, you know, Sammy came around. So loving Sammy the way that I did when 5150 came out, that immediately became one of my favorite albums. So more so for me, I didn't go from 84 and then go back to, you know, Diver, Women and Children and so forth. I went from 84 to 5150, OU 812, and then later on went back to early Van Halen. So I just kind of jumped in right here and kept moving forward. But you know, again, this was just one of those albums that, kind of like we were talking about Whitesnake earlier. It's just, if you were in the MTV mode, you were going to get 15 doses of this every single day,
Yeah,
or, you know, a million months. So
you loved every one of them, man.
yeah, yeah, and it's still a really cool album. I mean, I know even looking at the scope of it now, where a lot of people hate the way that they were going with the synth and stuff like that. You know, like I think it was great. It was a great fun album. It was
Yeah,
big party rock fun, and I liked it.
yeah. I mean, who doesn't
Oh,
smile when
that's nice, Melinda.
they see the video for Hot for Teacher, man? How does
Yeah.
that not put a smile on your face from ear to ear? Or Panama, or
Hmm.
Jump. I mean, any one of those videos from that album, they were so fun. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Drop dead legs and all that stuff.
Oh,
There was just a lot of
Gimme.
fun, just built into that entire album.
And Melinda, I knew when I had that, there was no other person. And now get it, I love my Japanese pressings. I love my German pressings. But I knew that something told me that album needed to go to Melinda, and so I know it's in its right home, its proper home. So Vinyl Guru said yes, it was on Vulgar Display of Power. It even had a video, first released and presented at the Golden God Awards. When she
Huh.
was there, nice.
I have never heard of that. That's awesome.
Check it out. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll get a link and figure that out.
Yeah, definitely.
The song was
cool.
called Piss. So now that you say the song was called Piss, I do vaguely remember a Pantera song that I don't know. I may actually, I'll have to review it. You know, go back to it and see. But yeah,
I'm clueless.
yeah, we'll figure it out. Now, Heavy Metal Basement is throwing out fighting words. There has to be the worst Van Halen album they put out. Now it's all love, man. It's all love. No, dude.
Well, I guess it depends.
Down, man. Doesn't it have to be Diver Down, really? I mean, even though it's not terrible. What do you think?
Well, I was that's what I was getting ready to say. Actually, what was Diver Down would be my choice, but
Me too.
it's also very easy to understand too, for again, people that may not like the synth direction that they went from 84 up, like we say, with 5150 and all of that. It's very easy to see, yeah, if I like the way that Eddie was doing his thing in the early albums, you're gonna hate 84 and 5150 and all of that. But it's just with me, I just see the beauty in both of those. Like Van Hagar and Van Halen, I could not do without any of those albums. They are all freaking fantastic.
I think the thing to me that attracted me to those later Van Halen albums, your 1984 and your 5150, 5150 even being a Van Hagar record, the sound was still there, even though Sammy was singing, that the sound was still very much in that synth mode, which we were all living in at the time. I think the thing that attracts me to those records, even to this day, are the catchy melodies and hooks.
Right.
You know,
right.
Where I think Diver Down lacked a lot of that. Tremendous guitar god work on there, but not really memorable songs.
Yeah,
that was my kind of thing. So yeah,
totally agree.
let's see. Yeah, so many people are saying that Van Halen's debut, Jeff and Old Fart talking about and on 8-track, love it.
That's cool.
Thanks for representing the 8-track here, Jeff. That's great. I need to make some 8-track videos. I am so far behind on my 8-track videos. It's not even funny. If I started making 8-track videos, it'd take me a year to catch up on where I'm at. And Jeff knows. It's only been the last like 2 or 3 years because I actually like 3 years ago sent him a message on Facebook. Or no, it wasn't Facebook. It was on YouTube when you could still send messages on YouTube. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting my first 8-track player. What should I get? And he's like, well, make sure you get one that has a working belt. And make sure you get one that does it. And if not, you better be prepared to do a lot of work on the player and the tapes. So definitely the reason I got into 8-tracks, really.
Cool.
So, yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, so let's jump in. Is it my turn now?
Yeah.
All right. So now I'll talk about a band I think we all love.
Yes.
Thin Lizzy. The mighty Thin Lizzy. Jailbreak. This is the first thing that I was introduced to, obviously through songs like Jailbreak. But The Boys Are Back in Town, Cowboy Song, Romeo and the Lonely Girl. This was a staple, and Brandon will attest. I mean, it's still played on our local rock station, KC95, and not just The Boys Are Back in Town. They're playing Jailbreak, they're playing Romeo and the Lonely Girl, and Cowboy Song. They play Cowboy Song all the time. Whereas I imagine a lot of rock stations have either gone away or you'll only hear The Boys Are Back in Town. But this is the one that definitely hooked me and introduced me to the band. And then, of course, from there, I go back to the older stuff, Fighting, which is still, if you love Jailbreak and you're just kind of wanting to dip your feet or your toes into Thin Lizzy, because they have a whole lot of stuff. I mean, their catalog's pretty deep. And you like that sound, get Fighting, get Chinatown, get Bad Reputation, get those albums. But their early stuff is not that. It's
right.
Very bluesy, very folky at times. Not that it's bad, it's different, right? I mean, it's definitely different than that.
Yeah. I mean, Jailbreak is just such a fantastic album because that to me is right when they got really, really polished. And I don't mean polished from the sense that, they went into the studio and watered it down and all of that. I just mean with what they do, they came to just like they were doing it to perfection on that album. And it's just beautiful songwriting. The creativity is there. I mean, nothing on that album gets old.
No, you hit it on the head. They saw their lane with this record. Fighting, they were kind of figuring it out what they wanted to be. Recording songs like, and that's a great thing about that band is they didn't just have to write their songs. They picked songs that fit their sound and who they wanted to be. They did the Seeger, Rosalie, Bob Seger, Rosalie, and that was on the Fighting album. A great cover for them. These guys were tremendous. They saw their lane and they stayed in it.
Yeah.
And it all started right about that time.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah, Johnny the Fox. There's one that I forgot to mention.
A great one.
That's a killer.
That's a great one.
Record, man. There's so much good stuff. I remember that, Ron. I remember you picking Chinatown as your record of the year. Yeah, so good stuff. We all love Thin Lizzy, man. I think somebody, Old Fart or somebody said they're probably one of the most underrated and underappreciated bands. Couldn't agree more.
Yep. All right. So moving on to the next pick here. Next band is going to be AC/DC. And my intro to AC/DC was not Black and Back, like a lot of people probably thought, but Who Made Who?
Yeah.
Was my intro with AC/DC. And again, Matt, just another cassette that he threw my way. And that's the one of the things I think is really kind of well, I shouldn't say cool about it, but what a thought process I like to go through is, you have albums that have just been completely played out. Well, before I get into all that, let me just talk about the album itself. I'll kind of get in detour here, but a lot of their hits that most people know with, Who Made Who, You Shook Me All Night Long, which of course one of the most played out songs ever. But I think some of the tracks on here that are really great that maybe don't get quite as much attention is like Sink the Pink and Ride On. I think those are two, great songs that oftentimes don't get included with the mega hits, if you will, that are AC/DC, like You Shook Me All Night Long and Black and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the fantastic album, which I guess originally was a soundtrack from Maximum Overdrive. And I didn't realize that when I first got the album. I thought it was just an AC/DC album. So it was pretty much from here that I went backwards to discover all their other stuff. But
that's what I was going to ask you, Brandon, if you actually discovered that through the Maximum Overdrive movie. Is that what turned you on, or was it just coincidence that came out at the same time?
Yeah, it was just a coincidence that. But again, Matt, have you ever heard of this band called AC/DC? No, I have no clue. Here, borrow this tape. And of course, the very first time you hear You Shook Me All Night Long and all of that, you're just like, wow, what is this? And that's just one of those songs I wish I could go back and hear and experience for the first time, kind of like maybe throwing on Led Zeppelin 4, legendary album, legendary songs, all of that. You can never deny their place in history. But if you ask me to go, play You Shook Me All Night Long right now and listen to it, I don't think I can. If you ask me to listen to Led Zeppelin 4, I'm not going to make it anywhere near, through Stairway to Heaven. Like I can't do it.
Some songs have been played out, like you said.
Yeah. But it's just how cool would it be if you could actually go back and listen to Stairway for the first time? Yes. Or You Shook Me All Night Long for the first time. That thought kind of excites me, even though it's never possible.
Yeah, I think I think she just hit it on the head where you were getting ready to go before you said, "Wait, I don't want to get off on. Let me talk about this record."
Yeah. So yeah, Bon Scott or Brian Johnson era. That's really another one of those things where, especially when you have a lead singer with the statue of Bon leave, I don't think there was a drop off or a lift upwards. Like I really felt like it was seamless. They just kind of changed with the times and went into what was going to be the 80s type of hard rock. So I'd have a hard time picking between the two because there really wasn't a dramatic difference to me in experiencing both of them.
Yeah. So while you took the easy way out, Brandon, you chump. I'm gonna hit him right in the face. I prefer Bon Scott era stuff. While I love Brian Johnson era AC/DC, I think they've made some fantastic, memorable music that'll last forever. I think the stuff that they did with Bon is timeless. I mean, we still love that to this day. And you ask people, list your fantasy bands or fantasy concerts that you would have loved to have seen. And most everybody, I would say in their top 10 is going to be AC/DC Bon Scott era, because that window was so small. Again, I think a lot of that has to do with how much magic and how much power was packed into a very small window.
Yeah. And see, and the question I always have with the Bon question is, if let's say if Bon didn't pass away, was that in 80 when he passed away? 79?
Yeah,
80, something like that.
79, 80, yeah, 80, I think.
If he did not pass away, would AC/DC have sounded any different moving forward going into, like, see, I guess that's kind of the thing for me is I think Bon would have been doing the exact same thing we hear from AC/DC today.
Yes.
So if you took those two and switched their eras, would the music have been different in the early and later? I don't think it would have changed at all.
So I'm not the.
Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
It makes absolutely.
I feel like I'm rambling.
No, well, we always ramble, man. You know that's what we do. But I think I'm kind of a. AC/DC just kind of, I do kind of paint them with a broad brush. I don't know a whole lot of their backstory and everything. I know Malcolm wrote a lot for them, but I'm thinking, just tagging on with what you just said, if had Bond not passed away, what would Back in Black sound like?
Mhm.
Would it be the same? And I don't think it would, because if memory serves me correctly, I think Malcolm and Angus and those and Ron, they came up with the music, and I think Brian brought a lot of those vocals to the table, or not vocals. Obviously, he brought 100% of the vocals to the table, but I think he brought a lot of the lyrics to the table. I'm not 100% sure. Fill us in the comments. What do you know, Brandon? I mean, believe it or not,
I'm not that deep. I don't know.
You don't know that? Yeah, we don't know.
I know.
I do vaguely remember watching one of those VH1 behind the music things or classic albums. Maybe it was Back in Black classic album, and I think that Brian came up with a lot of those lyrics.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. So somebody said, "Oh, Nick, hey Nick, they could have quit when Bond died, but they came back and released what a lot of people do believe is their biggest album ever." Yeah, absolutely. I think if we were to list, that's tough, man.
It is.
List your favorite AC/DC record. I think it would probably split between Back in Black and Highway to Hell, which is ironic because it's the last Bon Scott record and the first Brian Johnson record, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Powerage is great, High Voltage is great, TNT is great. You got so many great songs on there. Of course, Razor's Edge is great too.
Yeah.
Somebody said earlier they're one of those bands that that you actually know what you're getting. You're getting your money's worth, and it's not like you're ever going to be shocked when you put on an AC/DC record,
right?
A blind buy, and you're like, "What the hell is this?" You know what it is,
right? And that's the way I've always described him. Is that for the most part? I mean, again, of course, we know the difference in singers and time periods and everything, but for the most part, you can take almost any song off of any AC/DC album and move it to another AC/DC album, and it's not going to be 100% completely out of place at all. From their debut all the way up through what was that? What was the last one they did? Hard. What was Rock?
Oh, it's the one that's got him in the statue on the.
Yeah, well, with the rocks exploding. Why can't I remember the name of that album?
Yeah,
but
I can't remember.
But again, for the most part, if you moved it wouldn't be like this big, just horrible thing that just doesn't fit into this album that you moved it to. And to me, that's really kind of the testament to the consistency of AC/DC even after Bond passed away.
Right. So there you go, Vinyl Guru.
Brian's early band before. I don't. Oh yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Different, but it's definitely not AC/DC.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So Steve actually says, people forget that Bond wasn't even the first singer of AC/DC. And then of course Ron throwing out craziness here. Total crazy talk. Look at this.
That is a bad album, though. I'll definitely put that.
No, he says it's his favorite. So underrated.
that is one of the ones that kind of get pushed to the side a little bit, but that's
it does.
Even Ball Breaker. That's one that I think is a fantastic.
That's the one with him in the statue, with Angus in the statue.
Yeah. Ball Breaker's a solid album.
So Ron actually answered it was
Rock or Bust. That's it.
That's the one.
Thank you.
Yeah, and of course everybody's coming in. They're like, "Dude, you got to know this is Rock or Bust."
I know, like Rock or Bust, you idiots.
Rock or Bust, you fool. Liam, being nice to us, man. We got so much on the brain right now. So now let's hit them. Let's hit them hard, Brando. I think we're. Are we to the almighty Metallica?
Yes.
You want to take the lead? Or you want me? You know what?
Yeah, I'll let you go.
I'll
I'll let
take
you
lead
go.
on this one just because of I know what you picked and you know what I picked.
Hmm.
And everybody knows that this, even with or without bass, is my favorite Metallica record. This is probably my second favorite metal record of all time. It's crazy to think that this and Rust in Peace, which is 1 and 2 for me, came out within months of each other. Just golly, this is so killer. This is amazing. I almost pulled the. You guys all know about this. I don't need to carry on and talk about this. But this is one of those albums that turned me on. Again, the guy that I rode around in the car with back and forth to baseball practice in high school. He was into Metallica from the jump, and he would always play Kill 'Em All. Kill 'Em All was his favorite. Well, to me, Kill 'Em All is pretty far down there on my list. I mean, it's not anywhere down there towards the bottom, but it's in the middle. As far as the essential Metallica albums, it does fall towards the lower end of that for me.
Yeah.
A lot of people claim it to be their favorite just because of the raw impurities that it has. But for me, this was my first love, and a lot of it came from MTV. It wasn't my first exposure to the band, but it was definitely my first love. I had already heard a lot of this stuff off Kill 'Em All, and I did like it. Totally just went right over my head because it was not something that caught my ear. When I first heard the stuff off it, One and Harvester of Sorrow, Blackened, dude. How can you not hear the intro of Blackened and just want to just bang your head against that little orange Chevette, man?
That's awesome.
That's the one that hooked me, and I will say I went back. So I went from there and went backwards. Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All, and absorbed all those records. Believe it or not, in that short amount of time, I knew all those records inside and out before the Black Album even came out.
Wow.
That was what was that, 90 when that came out? Was it
91, I think.
90, 91? Yeah. So in that 2-year spirit, 2.5 year span of and Justice and Black, I actually was all caught up, and I was the biggest diehard Metallica fan, when it came out. So,
Awesome.
how about you? Since we're both talking about Metallica,
Yeah. Well, again, not necessarily talking about favorite album, but the album that introduced me to Metallica was the Black Album. That was the first one that I ever heard. And of course, that was due to MTV and even some of the radio play that, stuff like Sandman was getting and things like that. But this was the first Metallica album that I heard. And again, when you're first getting into Metallica, when you're not into thrash and stuff, which I wasn't at that time, this is probably one of the most, melody, listener friendly type of albums they had to date. Matter of fact, I remember somebody was talking about this album and, just talking about why it caught so much flack. And he said one of the main reasons why so many metalheads turned away from the album, outside of just the more melodies and some of the softer, ballady type of things that were in here. He was like, this is the first Metallica album where the guy's 10-year-old sister was coming into his room asking if he could borrow his Metallica album. And he was like, once that starts happening, you lose the faithful, kind of. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's kind of true. But so this is the one that introduced me to him, and I really got into this album around 91, 92, somewhere in there. And the funny thing is, my friend Matt again, I owe this guy so much freaking credit to my musical taste and things I love today. He saw me getting into that, and he actually brought Master of Puppets to me and gave me a tape. Again, hand me a tape, Master of Puppets. I listened to the thing, threw it on the shelf, and was like, what is this crap? I thought it was the worst thing I ever heard in my life. And I wasn't ready for the thrash thing. But to this day, I would probably say my favorite. It really is almost a tie, but I would give the nod to Injustice. I can definitely listen to that album more so than probably any other Metallica album. And then I would go Ride, and then I would go Master. So those would be my three favorite Metallica albums.
Yeah. There's something that still excites me when I listen to Justice. And I can't say that about too many albums. Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power I'm 46 years old, just like you, and I can put that on and still get freaking pumped.
Yeah.
It's I don't want to say it's like the first time I heard it, because there's nothing like you said earlier about you'd like to go back and capture that. Remember what it was like the first time you heard Stairway to Heaven, or the first time you heard. Yeah, man, I can only imagine how my mind was blown the first time I heard Pantera or Metallica or something like that.
Yeah. And I think part of the magic too behind like Injustice for All and all the Pantera stuff is
Hey, I agree with you, buddy.
I'm gonna stay out of that one. I think part of that magic too is when groups, especially in metal, can get very tribal in what they're doing. In other words, when you start getting those type of rhythms that are very kind of groovy and very kind of everyone on the same groove, that there's a certain power and excitement that brings to the table that, even though other great, speed thrash stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
It's just something about it. It brings out that tribal nature.
Certain bands that are able to, like you said, it's right here, man. They're this tight. And even on the completely other side of the spectrum, I mean, you got Pantera, who's on 11 all the freaking time, and then a band like Danzig, who, dude, it's that groove. When you put on those first handful of Danzig albums, if you're not freaking nodding, there's something wrong with you, man.
Exactly.
Twisted Pain, she rides, man. To this day, I can't put that on in my car without. I want to roll down the window and just get a cigarette, just hanging out the side. I don't smoke, but I want to light one up, man.
It's awesome. That's awesome. Maybe with all the stuff that's on Injustice, I mean, just the great stuff that's there. Harvester of Sorrow is still the one song that it's like, why does that song have all of this? And I don't know what the beats per minute on it is or whatever, but it's just a slow rhythmic, but it puts you right there.
Yeah, it's very, very sludgy. So, David, don't feel bad, man. First of all, welcome to the show here. I know you've been here, but welcome to the show of guys that know a lot, but still know absolutely nothing in the big things, right?
I literally feel that almost every time I make a YouTube video that I don't know jack about music. because you watch so many other people's videos and they're showing tons of stuff that you've never heard of. And you're just like, I don't know jack. I guess everything I have is just the common stuff that everyone has. Because it's insane, which is a great place to be, because the whole joy behind this thing is people are introducing you to stuff every single day.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Love for Exodus? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Pleasures of the Flesh. That old stuff is really where I fall in with those guys.
Yeah.
And that's another one, just like touching on what Brandon just said. We think we know a lot, or we've been exposed to a lot, but we know nothing. We're just the tip of the iceberg. It's like seeing things like that Mitch will show, some of his Prince stuff, some of his Ian Moore, things that Melinda show. Yeah, so many people. Look who just stopped in here. Metal Ben. What's up, dude? Ben, he does great countdown videos on his and rankings. He's doing these battles now. If you guys aren't sub to Ben, you have no idea, but he's doing these battles where he takes two albums, not necessarily from the same artist, but two albums that are very similar, maybe a Metallica album and a Megadeth album that came out in the same year, and he'll go track by track and pick which one is the more metal. Which one is the more attractive to him? What he likes, and then at the end, this one is the winner. It's 5-4. This one is they're really entertaining video. Cool. I love it. But Ben's got a great channel. So yeah, definitely check out Ben if you haven't. So we love all that stuff. So Melinda, I'm gonna have to drive to Kentucky and shake some sense into you, sister. Who passes on Danzig 1? Who? Now, I'm going to give you a half a pass and say if they're those reissues, I can say, okay. But if you passed on an OG copy of Danzig 1, not once, but twice.
Don't answer that, Mitch. Don't answer.
Now, though, I will say, Brother Jared, Backwoods Metal, he has him and I think Chris Hansen, what lurks on Channel X. They're the only two that I know of that actually have the Danzig reissues, and they say they sound actually pretty good. They're one of those things. They're unauthorized. That's another one. Why haven't they freaking reissued those things? Holy crap! Yeah.
It's your turn or mine?
You go ahead and take the lead. I think it's your turn anyway because I did Metallica and you just did Black, right?
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. So the next band we're going to go with, first introduction to Aerosmith, who also has quite the discography. And my introduction was Permanent Vacation. That was the first Aerosmith album that I discovered. And again, this is one of those things that's kind of going back to, right when I'm discovering MTV. I mean, this is 87. So you're starting to get all the video rotation and, Dude Looks Like a Lady, Ragdoll, Angel, just those hits that they just played again to no end. But this is really what made me initially fall into Aerosmith. And once again, I went back. Actually, I think I went right from this going right to their greatest hits album. So then I'm discovering, Dream On, Same Old Story, and all that good stuff. But I mean, they caught a lot of flack for this album, but I really like it. Again,
I like it too. I know Scott Waters, another great channel on here. Of course, everybody knows Scott. His love for Aerosmith. Killer album. So I have to go back and correct myself. For some reason, I don't know why I saw Mitch Wood talking about the Danzig, and I said Melinda. Mitch. Dude, I do know, but I will say this in Mitch's defense, he passed on a hand-signed copy by the band of Danzig 1, an original OG. However, in Mitch's defense, I passed on it as well.
What were they asking? I almost have to know.
Mitch would know. I'm gonna guess it was. So you guys know a nice VG Plus copy of Danzig 1 sells for almost $200 anyway.
Right.
I think it was 300. Am I correct on that? Yeah, 300. And it was legit. I think they had a PSA certificate with it or something. I mean, it was good. I mean, I matched them up with the signatures. From what I could tell, everything looked good. The reason I passed on it is because it was signed on the inside of the gatefold.
Oh.
If it were signed on the front cover, I would have bought it 10 times over.
Yeah.
So that was the reason. I'm sure a lot of you guys are freaking out. Like, why would you do that? That's why you get a pass for that one. I see. So Steve, Harmless Rebel, said he has the Danzig 1 and 3 boots, the unauthorized boots, and they sound great. There you go. I mean, I trust Steve's opinion as good as anybody's.
Yeah, definitely.
Ron says Permanent Vacation for him as well.
There you go, Ron.
And Dave, they're another MTV band. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, definitely. So I'll jump in here now, and so yeah, it is my turn, right?
Yep.
Cool. We got to talk about Ozzy. Andrew says Pump is better, so Yeah, I actually told you that last night, didn't
Yeah,
I?
I know, I know. Of course, you have to slide that one in right at the end.
Right. So Ozzy,
Low blow, Andrew.
my story on Ozzy is, and I told Brandon this last night when we were kind of talking a little bit and putting our list together, 2 nights ago. I can't remember when it was. So my story on Ozzy, this is what his, you guys would know. What is this, Brandon? This is his third album, right?
Uh,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah. Right before Sin, right?
Yeah, and so I came in on this, and the reason that this was my exposure to Ozzy, my dad, his best friend, that we would always go over to his best friend's house on whether it was Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, whether they were hunting, whether they just got done hunting or working on a truck or whatever. Dad would drag me along over to his best friend's house, and because he had a son that was about my age, but he was like 5 years older. But he had the coolest room, man. When I would walk into his bedroom, he had all the posters, Ozzy, Kiss, Sabbath, all just all over the room, man. And I thought this dude was the coolest dude on the planet. And this was one I'll never forget. One day I walked in and I'm like, let's watch Wrestling at the Chase. He's like, let me finish listening to this new Ozzy record at the time. And for those of you that don't know, Wrestling at the Chase was kind of a wrestling show that was it may have been nationally broadcast, but it's actually famous here for the Midwest, St. Louis. It was recorded here in St. Louis, Missouri. And we would go all the time. My dad, his friend, me, and this other dude that introduced me to this. We would go watch Harley Race and Ric Flair, Ted DiBiase, and all those guys, man. Ricky Steamboat before he was just Rick Steamboat. He wasn't the Dragon yet. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Dude, getting way off track. I'm getting way off track. I didn't even
you're taking me down memory lane, man.
Right. So I walk in and Dean was his name, is playing Bark at the Moon, and I lose it. I'm like, holy crap, who is that? He's like, you don't know Ozzy Osbourne? I'm like, no. Yeah, I'm 6 years, yeah, I'm 7 years old at the time, whatever I was. When did this come out? 83? Yeah, 83. I'm 8 years old, or 9 years old. But this was a pretty life-changing album for me. Of course, Jakey Lee on guitar, just really, really great stuff. And now I look back at it and I'm like, I'm going to be honest, it's not an album that I play out of the Ozzy discography as much as half the others, but it's still a life-changing album for me. So I went from this and then of course went back and got Blizzard and all the other stuff. And then getting into almost that middle school age when Sin came out and No Rest, you're in. You're definitely bought in wholeheartedly by then.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great album.
No. Have you seen the video of Jack Osbourne showing Ozzy some unreleased Randy Rhoads riffs? Yeah, I think Final Guru. I think that was that on that Ozzy and Jack's road trip. Have you seen any of that, Brandon?
I haven't. No.
So I think in season 2, if this is the one that Vinyl Guru was talking about, they actually go to this. They go on these road trips, like crazy excursions. It's just Jack and Ozzy, and they went to this mountain. I forget what they call it, whether it's Music Mountain or something like that. But anyway, they store master tapes and very, very important documents in this mountain. I forget where in the heck it is. Somebody will tell us here. But he goes in and they're actually able to play the masters. The first time he heard Randy Rhoads, the original tracks, Ozzy was like, you could tell he was moved. He was emotional.
Yeah.
Hell, I was emotional just watching it because Ozzy's like, I haven't heard this for 40 years. I haven't heard. They were able to solo Randy playing on guitar. It was so amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, totally killer. As people are saying, everybody's weighing in on their introduction to Ozzy. Yeah,
Blizzard and Diary.
No Rest. Yeah, of course you got Zakk Wylde on there.
Yeah.
And then Steve Ultimate Sin.
Ultimate
You know,
Sin.
and that,
Yeah.
didn't you say that was the one that you kind of got?
Yeah. The Ultimate Sin was the intro for me. Going back, just a kind of a quick childhood story again. You know, riding the bus home from junior high. I was in like 7th grade at this time, and there was an older guy in high school named Jimmy Morris. He was kind of the strange dude on the block. You know, he was the one that had the tore up jeans before tore up jeans were cool, and always had the bandanas around his knees, and you know, funky mohawk type haircuts. Didn't shower for 2 or 3 days, but you know, he was friends with it. He was a cool guy, but he always brought his little boom box on the bus. And Jimmy would just play everything. You would know if something from Metallica or Prince or, you know, the Go-Go's was coming out. Like Jimmy just loved what he loved. And
Jimmy
one
Jam.
day, exactly. And one day we're on the way home and he plays 2 songs back to back, which was Shot in the Dark by Ozzy Osbourne. And then right after it, it was Your Love by The Outfield.
Oh man.
That was my intro to both of them, that bus ride home. And of course, as soon as we get off the bus, Jimmy, who, what, Jimmy, who, Jimmy. It's like, dude, you can't walk away. I need whatever that was.
Yes. Inject it directly into my veins.
Exactly.
So Mitch, I agree. Those 22-bit remasters that they did in the mid 90s, absolutely kill. I even have some of those on cassette, believe it or not. But you know, and they sound killer. You can actually get those on. I mean, you see them on Discogs all the time. The CDs. Are those the gold discs, Mitch? I don't remember if they were the. What do they call them? 24 karat gold or whatever. Maybe they had some sort of fancy name for them when they came out with them. Somebody says, "Old fart." Here we go. Seeing Ozzy leave Black Sabbath was heartbreaking. I wasn't old enough to remember Ozzy leaving Black Sabbath. You know. Yeah, absolutely. And Angel, hey, there we go.
There we go.
Ultimate Sin as well. Cousin had a copy on cassette.
Okay. That's awesome.
we were talking about wearing out cassettes earlier. So Mitch just said he just remembers the green cover art. Yeah, that you can. They were different. I have some of the cassettes over here somewhere. Speak of the Devil was the first time he'd heard the Black Sabbath songs. I think a lot of us can probably say that too, because I was actually going to pick Sabbath. I was gonna pick Sabbath because obviously Sabbath is we're all heavily influenced by Sabbath. I was gonna pick a Sabbath album, but I thought I would probably have to pick Speak of the Devil or the greatest hits comp, you know, that came out. That was my first taste of Sabbath. I would love to say it was Volume 4 or Master of Reality or, you know, Paranoid, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and see, I think mine was Paranoid. That's why I didn't pick Sabbath, because I was like, who wants to hear someone just pick Paranoid again when, you know, hardcore fans, of course, were in there with all the early stuff. But I think for the most part, most people probably initially found Sabbath some way through Paranoid. You know, so yeah, I decided not to do Sabbath on this one.
Yeah, I stepped away for a second. That's why I kind of gave you the reins there. But I went to go grab these because Mitch was talking about them. So these are, I think that's the green cover art that Mitch was talking about. You can see, the 22-bit. See, I hate this laptop, man. You go one way, it goes the other. I'm so used to filming. I was telling Brandon a couple nights ago when we were kind of going through this. I'm like, damn it, I'm so used to filming on my phone. I think you are as well, right?
Yeah.
We film our videos on our phone, and when you know where to look, you know where to show. You know? On these laptops, it's like you think you're looking in the right place, but you're not. Oh man, that's crazy. Metal Ben says, he used to have all those cassettes. The cassettes are I don't know if the cassettes or the CDs are any harder to find, but I know they sound great. like I said, as far as cassettes go, those tapes are killer. Yeah.
I think I have a couple of those.
So let's see what you got next.
Okay, so next, yeah, we're down to like the last two
Yeah,
here.
down to the last two, right?
Yeah.
You guys have made this fun, man. We've gone through almost 2 hours in like that.
I know. It's been a
And
blast.
it's not just Brandon and I running the show here. You guys are fantastic, man.
All right, so the next one I decided to pick is Alice Cooper. So where down the Alice Cooper chain did I discover them? And the reason I picked this one was because of when I really, really came up with the album that I first heard Alice Cooper, I was like, wow, look how long it took me to to discover Alice Cooper. So long before Billion Dollar Babies and all that stuff, really Trash was my first introduction to Alice Cooper. And I think it just kind of goes back to the song Poison, of course, which is kind of more of a mainstream hit for him back in the late 80s. That was the first song I really discovered by him. And then House of Fire and a few other things off of this. And even after that, it was still quite some time. I mean, probably not exaggerating, the last 6 years or so of my musical life has really been discovering early Alice Cooper. Now, I mean, I've dove in like a freaking champ, and just kind of gobbling up and taking in everything. But yeah, this was my introduction to Alice. Late 80s, almost in the 90s before I really knew them.
When we talked, I told you the reason I wasn't going to jump in on the Alice thing, which I love. Alice. I think I have everything in his discography pretty much. I mean, I have a ton, but I was turned on to Alice at such an early age. With my dad was a huge Alice Cooper fan. And back with the Alice Cooper band, so yeah, I can't even remember when I was first really introduced. It was that long ago. It was like,
Yeah.
I was probably in the womb when Dad was playing Alice Cooper band stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And growing up in my family, man, it was my dad's was originally from Africa, and so when it came to his musical taste, it had nothing to do with any type of, especially on the rock side of things whatsoever. Right. My mom was strictly R&B and gospel, so anything rock or metal or whatever that ever came into our home, it was filtered right through me.
Yeah, and
so it was just kind of
from your friends, right? I mean,
yeah.
Same with me, Ron. I mean, while all that stuff was going on, the first stuff that I really picked up was just like Brandon. The stuff that I got from my personal collection was late 80s Alice Cooper. And the Poison, Feed My Frankenstein, and Trash, all that stuff. Constrictor. And I didn't get into the 70s Alice, like actually physically picking it up from me, going back and getting it, even though I had been exposed to it all my life. Was about 5-6 years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, but yeah, definitely not a long time. Hey, Stupid. Yeah, I remember that one.
Another great one.
Yeah, and then of course David Poison, earliest memory of Alex, Feed My Frankenstein.
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World. Yeah, I forgot that was even on there, man. That is crazy. Welcome to My Nightmare for Nick. Yeah, good stuff. He's got so much.
I was gonna say there's so much Alice stuff out there.
Yeah. So let's see. I'll grab one here, and then we've each got one that we're going to end on, right?
Yeah, the biggie.
So, the biggie, yeah. So I had to do another country. I know Nick loves his country, not, but Hank Williams Jr. You guys know that I am a huge Bo Cephas, Rock and Randall, Hank Williams Jr. fan. And believe it or not, this was my first introduction to it. Not because I wasn't really aware of it. This stuff was being played around the house. My mom and dad loved country. They loved R&B. They loved rock and roll, but they played a lot of this stuff. I just wasn't digging it, man. I wanted to hear I Want to Rock and Bang Your Head and things like that. And, believe it or not, when I was buying music at before this, so this is 1987. I got into country in late 1986, and I'm talking headfirst dive into when I heard Randy Travis, when I heard Dwight Yoakam, Guitars Cadillacs, and Hank Williams Jr. We Are Young Country. That was the first song, and Born to Boogie. Of course, they're both on this album here. That was my introduction to country music, and this is probably his, golly, I'm going to say 15th or 20th, maybe even more. Hank Jr.'s got a ton of stuff. Of course, he had a bunch of that early stuff. Hank Jr. has two different careers, for those of you that don't really know. When he started after his dad died, his dad was 26 years old, Hank Sr., when he passed away. And when he started, his mom had him doing his dad's stuff. So he was sound alike, look alike. He wanted to, they were selling the image of Hank Sr. through his son. And he very much sounded like his dad up until, I'd say, he found his own voice in the early 70s, 73, 74, when he had, I think 73, when he had Hank Williams Jr. and Friends. And that's right about the time when Waylon Jennings recorded Honky Tonk Heroes. Willie and Family recorded their big outlaw breakthrough smash hit. That's when he kind of turned that corner. And to me, that's where I start really collecting and actively seeking out Hank Williams Jr. Stuff. So yeah, and so this is 1987. So you got to figure that was at least 8 or 10 albums in, because back in the day they used to put out an album at least every year. Sometimes they'd put 2 albums out a year.
Yeah.
So, Mick says Hank Sr. all the way for him. Yeah. I think a lot of us, when you start talking about our parents, especially our grandparents, Hank Sr. was heavily influential in their music. We've all heard their stuff from ever. Liam, I gotta give Liam a shout out here. He loves his country. Liam is another guy that country brother on here, man. Much like Steve, Harmless Rebel. Liam has a fantastic channel, and he knows his country music. So yeah, there's Steve. Family tradition. Yeah, that's but how late was that, Steve? I would be interested to know. Family tradition, that came out in 79. I'm sure you weren't introduced to that song in 79, because I don't know. I think you're a few years younger than me. So how deep and how long ago was that? I'd be curious to know. There you go, Ron. Ron is turning over a new leaf. Recently getting into Waylon Jennings. Dude, there's nobody any finer in my opinion, Ron, to get into as far as country music than Waylon. And very much like Hank Jr., Waylon had kind of 2 careers as well. His early stuff is very much rockabilly. And Johnny Paycheck is as well. But man, when Waylon recorded Ladies Love Outlaws and Honky Tonk Heroes, Dream My Dreams, man, when you look at 1973 on Waylon stuff, he had that sweet spot from like 73 to 83 or 84. You can't go wrong. You see him, buy him. It's great stuff. Great stuff. What's Metal Ben? Some of those country artists were putting up to 3 albums a year. Say, oh yeah, Johnny Cash and those guys. Yeah, they were just they had to, especially if you were on Sun Records, man. His dad's band opened up for Juice Newton. Nice. No relation. No relation. So Steve said about the family tradition, he grew up with it. He was about 4 when it came out. Family Tradition and The Gambler, 2 of the first records, and yeah. And we recently lost Kenny Rogers, man. We all make fun of Kenny Rogers. Every one of us are guilty of making fun of Kenny Rogers at some point, because who hasn't been in every thrift store or record store and went or dug through a collection and you're like, damn, another Kenny Rogers greatest hits, and but that's just a testament to how popular this dude was. Man. Everybody had Kenny Rogers in their collection. This dude sold millions and millions and millions of records. He didn't do it because of any other reason besides he recorded great stuff and he sang
Yep.
the hell out of it, man.
Yep.
I know Love Will Turn You Around, man. The movie Sick.
Oh my gosh. Man, I
That's
love that tribute you did to him was just freaking amazing. But you talk about a song that just gives me chills and nearly brings me to tears every single time I hear it. And Kenny doing Love Will Turn You Around is just one of the most amazing performances ever recorded.
And
it really is.
How can you not like the movie Six Pack, man? Yeah, dude, that's enough to sell it right there. Liam,
yeah, that's where I discovered it.
That's where we all discovered it, I think. Liam, a lot of people might not know. If you're not a country fan, you didn't know that Waylon played bass for Buddy Holly back in the day. And he's actually the guy, little trivia here for you guys. The night the plane crashed, Buddy and the Big Bopper and Richie Valens, the night the plane crashed, Waylon is the guy that gave up his seat.
Yep.
For the Big Bopper.
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy.
Insane. That is insane.
Kenny Rogers the Gambler is a must. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It definitely is. And now DJ, let's welcome DJ Trish. I mean, I don't know how long you've been in watching the feed, Trish, but another fantastic channel. We've got so many in here. I'm humbled, man. I can't, dude. We got so many like popular people in here tonight, and it's all because of you, and of course.
Yeah, right.
She believes in me, Trish. You're right, man. Kenny had a way of tugging at those heartstrings. He really did. All I see in thrift stores are dusty old Kenny Rogers and Lawrence Welker. You probably don't see too many Kennys now, and that is another thing about when people pass on, people will like scrounge to pick up their stuff. But I hope it brings on some new people to Kenny's music, Yeah,
you really should, because I think that not only was Kenny like a great country singer, but I also think sometimes there can be a little extra magic that's brought to it when you can find country singers that can incorporate soul music to a certain degree inside of what they do. And Kenny was one of those artists that could do that, which is probably why he did so much work with people like, Lionel Richie and stuff like that. But, Kenny Rogers, or even if you go to like Stapleton, another good example, like when that country and that soul comes together, it's moving music that just stays forever. And Kenny nailed it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned Stapleton. But before we get off that Stapleton tangent here, Lucille says hated Kenny Rogers because of the song Lucille. Every time, I'm sure even to this day, now every time I see Lucille pop up, I'm gonna think, pick to find time to leave me, Lucille.
I think that's understandable. I think she gets a pass for hating that.
Absolutely. And so we were talking, you mentioned Chris Stapleton, and we won't talk too much about country here because we've got one more thing to hit and we'll wrap things up. We've been over 2 hours, but it's been great. It's not like any of us have anything to do, but you mentioned Stapleton, and I sent you a Stapleton link today via a text. I sent Mitch and a couple other buddies that same link. Stapleton he's today's Kenny Rogers, the guy who. The difference between Stapleton though and Kenny is Stapleton writes his own stuff. I don't know if you were aware that Stapleton writes all that stuff. He's a mix of. I mean, you take Al Green or somebody like that, and mix them up with Kenny Rogers or put them together. Willie Nelson. The songwriting of Willie Nelson, the soul of Al Green, and Chris Stapleton is the guy that spit out. That dude is amazing, man.
Yeah.
He needs to put out a new record, man. It's been forever. The one I turned you on to 2 years ago was his last record.
Yeah. It's. I mean, the easy way I've always described him is that, especially on that Volume 1. Is he's singing Motown with a country twang.
Yes.
Like if you really simplify it, I mean, you could take songs like Either Way or Halo, and you could easily take that back to a Smokey Robinson or someone at Motown that could have done that song just like that back in the 60s.
Yeah,
with
and
no
you and
problem.
it would have been a seamless transition from the
Yeah.
way he did it to the way they would have
Mm,
done it. Absolutely,
yeah.
I think he, much like some of these other bands and artists we've talked about earlier tonight, Stapleton has found his lane
Yep.
and stuck in it. Nobody else is doing what Stapleton's doing,
Mm,
and I mean the dude can sing the phone book. Uh, the runs he does are just so sick. The runs he does make the greatest R&B singers jealous.
yes. Yes. Exactly. And that's what I was getting ready to say. No one can get in his lane because he is so real.
Yes.
Between the passion of his songwriting and the passion of his vocal delivery, you couldn't get in his lane if you wanted to.
No.
It's just that's just on a whole nother
But,
level.
when he made his huge splash, of course, people who've known his work with the Johnson Brothers, brilliant stuff. His work with the Steel Drivers, a lot of people probably don't know.
Oh, man.
Amazing bluegrass stuff. If you love bluegrass, I'm talking great, authentic bluegrass with a little bit of an edge. Stapleton bluegrass, traditional bluegrass with Stapleton's vocal.
Huh.
Oh, it's killer. It's called the Steel Drivers. Check it out. They made a couple records. I know he was predominantly featured on one, and it's on vinyl. You can still get it. Bull Moose did an exclusive pressing. They're still available for around $25-$30. You can still get it. But yeah, his stuff with Johnson Brothers is great too. Harmless Rebel, Southern Soul. That's really what it is, man. Killer
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He needs to make some new stuff. So let's do the last one here. You want me to take this and then you'll follow it, or you?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, go for it.
well, we will. So
Okay.
of course, I think we all have our own story, and I encourage you guys to share your story on because I think you guys, highly doubt any of you guys hate this band. If you do, you probably might want to keep quiet because there's so many of us that love this band. Uh, but from being a little kid, man, I was mesmerized by just I hadn't seen and heard a note of their music, but when I first heard Kiss Alive, that's the one that changed the game for me. Obviously, I had seen him. I was 1 year old when this came out, so I did not get into Kiss Alive when it came out. So that's basically what this Give Me 10 thread and this whole 2 hour long discussion has been about. It's bands that we love that we got into. We arrived late to the game, and this is the one for me. I was, to be honest, I was probably 6 or 7, so that you're talking 79, 80. Now I did say the first Kiss album that I bought was Ace Frehley's solo album. I probably should have shown that one, Brandon. Now that I'm backtracking a little bit, but this
Yeah.
for I do love that Ace Frehley solo album. It was the first one that I bought with my own money when it came out, and I would have been 4 or 5 years old. However, this is the first album that I fell in love with and knew front to back over and over and over. And that's really that really captures more the spirit of this thread. While it might not be your favorite album, this is the first one that you really just fell in love with. This was the one. Alive. And still to most people, probably one of the top 5 live albums ever recorded, even though there's some stories that it's not truly live,
Right.
but I mean, it is the spirit of it is live, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely can't go wrong with that pick. So I figured on this one I probably have to set the mood a little bit, so I went ahead and turned on the little
the Kiss.
Kiss
Yeah,
sign over there.
Go back over to that, Brandon, so they can see it. Look at you.
Oh yeah.
Showing off.
I want to right.
Before you jump into showing yours, let's just see what everybody.
Yeah, good idea.
Some people,
great idea.
David Newton, please don't be Rush. he thought we were going to talk about Rush. Hey, Rush is one of those bands, David, that I think that they're kind of like a great wine. They get better with age, to at least to me. I couldn't stand Rush when I was younger, but as I hit, I think I hit that number, that 35, 40-year-old, you realize the genius of Rush. I mean, Brandon can probably attest to that too. But yeah, we're not going to talk about Rush because we can talk about them all the time. But Ron knew where we were going with that. It was like, ooh, Kiss. Yeah, we were going to say Alive too, because I think for a lot of us our age, a lot of us kind of in that 40 to 45 age, 40 to 50. If you fall in that age category, Alive 2 would have probably been the sweet spot for you, right? Destroy it for some people. Liam, we were going to end it off right, buddy. We just had to. Of course, Ron, his introduction was Crazy Nights, which is a perfect segue for you, Brandon. Ron thought he hated him, but he's been into him for about a decade or so now. So I'll let you take over there, Brandon.
Okay. Well, yeah, and again, like I kind of stressed at the beginning of the video, I think there's a big difference between hearing a track or a single that you say you liked, or the first album that really made you dive in and discover the band, and you're learning the songs and that type of thing. Because yes, I did buy that Alive 2. Never really listened to it in terms of, I couldn't have told you the name of even one of the songs. Just the cover was so cool, I had to have it. When you had Animalize come out in Asylum, you had songs like Tears Are Falling or Heaven's on Fire. Big singles, loved the singles, but it didn't really bring me into the band. And quite frankly, it wasn't until this album right here, which was Crazy Nights. I'm right there with you, Ron. This was the first Kiss album that I bought that I was listening to from front to back and learning the lyrics and all of that. And to this day, probably still, maybe I can't say my favorite, but definitely one of my top 2 to top 3 Kiss albums. I love Crazy Nights, and of course, you have the title track like Crazy Nights and Reason to Live, which were kind of bigger, hits or whatever. But to me, the killer track that gets missed off of this is Turn on the Night. I love that song. It's just one of those things that it completely exemplifies the whole party rock nature of Kiss, and I thought this is definitely one of their best albums. That I'm glad Ron kind of said that, because usually for the most part, I just feel they don't get enough love on this album at all. But this really was my true intro to Kiss.
Yeah, I know that was your favorite. I know it's John, John Hockley's favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
It's John, Captain Howdy.
He was one of the first ones to ever back me up on that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know Steve, Harmless Rebel, will attest, because he and John are good friends as well and have been for years. That is John's favorite album, and he'll fight you tooth and nail for it, man.
Oh, yeah. That is a great party rock album.
No, she's got a question about your sign, Brandon.
Yeah, it says, is it custom? No, actually, I was just walking through this little shop called it's called Ragtag, kind of like a hippie little shop, and they have stickers and clothing and jewelry, and it was just sitting back there on the floor, and it was only like $10. And I was like, does it work? And they were like, yeah, she plugged it in. I was like, $10 sold. So no, I just found in this little shop. It came in a box and everything, so it wasn't custom made. It was
crazy. $10, man.
Yeah.
You know what though? That's almost like the time you and I and Mitch were at that Planet Score Records, and the carnival, that big ass carnival mirror of Maiden, Number of the Beast, and I think I snagged that for $10 or $15. You didn't know it was $20.
Those things are awesome.
I actually said, you gonna sell that? He's like, I don't know. You just gave it to him, so I know he had zero in it. And I'm like, I'll give you $20 for it. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
There's Angel there saying that Turn on the Night's favorite song. Indeed.
It is a great song.
Killer. Oh my gosh. It's one of the few rock songs that literally makes me happy to hear it.
Yeah,
like it's fun. It's uplifting. It's a happy, just I don't know, just one of those songs that you kind of see kids like on Dazed and Confused partying to. You know, it's just it's
Yes,
awesome.
Mitch, you can goof all you want. I do love Unplugged, but no, that's not my favorite. My favorite, like Angel was talking about, his favorite non Peter or Ace record. From me, it's Revenge. It's Revenge all day long.
Revenge is fantastic.
Golly,
Yes.
much like I said with Megadeth, the Hall of Fame lineup, so to speak, being Dave, Nick, Marty, and Dave. I think that Paul, Gene, Bruce, and Eric Carr are
Yeah.
they were at the top of their game when they recorded Revenge. Those guys were tight, and
Mhm.
that album packs a punch. It still has its poppy anthems on there, and it still has its glorified sexual innuendo songs as well, which
Yeah.
every Kiss album has to have one or two of those. But it has some freaking amazing, heavy, hard hitters on there too.
Yeah. Yeah, see, and it's funny you put it that way because when I go to Revenge, I can't really pick out a song that I say is so fantastic. But the one thing that always hits me when I see the cover is remembering the way the album hits when you listen to it. It
It
it, it
does.
really it really is just one of their punch in the gut type of albums.
That cover is
It's
hard,
awesome.
and
Yeah,
it's as hard as the music on there. Jeff
yeah.
Alive was his first, Destroyer, and Origins in that order. Yeah, man,
Hmm.
Kiss had some great stuff. I saw somebody actually said, "Dress to Kill." Dress to Kill was I don't see it now. It's on there somewhere, but Dress to Kill is fantastic. I think, man, how about this for something? Holding a gun to your head, you have to pick a favorite Kiss album. I mean, and it can't be. I mean, I guess I can't say it can't be Crazy Nights, but I don't
Hmm.
think, even though Crazy Nights was your first introduction to them, I don't think that's your favorite album, is it?
Oh man. If you talk about from the first track to the very last track, I, ah, I probably would have to say Crazy Nights.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe going to Love Gun after that or being right there, but listening from every track from front to back, I'm gonna have see, even as I'm saying it, I'm saying that's wrong.
Me too. I
God.
I sat here and I would say Revenge on first instinct, but as I think about it, I'm like, no, man, Dress to Kill. No, the self-titled, well,
Man.
Hotter Than Hell was great too. It's like, honestly, if you take any of those first 3 albums, let's include Alive. So any of
Mhm.
those first 4 albums could potentially be their best
Yeah.
album. Their self-titled is amazing.
Yeah. So
I mean,
if you had to go, okay,
it's
so not to keep prolonging this or whatever, but if you had to go listen to 3 Kiss songs right now and just really, really enjoy yourself, what 3 songs are you going to listen to?
3 Kiss songs that I so for me, and for 3 different reasons. One
Yeah.
one, Parasite. That song gets me pumped every time I hear it, and probably a live version of that. Probably, I think my favorite live version of it is the one off of Alive 3, with that lineup that I feel was, so in their stride and in their prime. Gene, Paul, Bruce, and Eric Carr. Well, Eric Singer, sorry. Eric Singer, who's another guy that doesn't get the love that he deserves. Eric Singer's amazing, dude.
Mhm.
And for taking over and filling the shoes that he had to fill.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a job he did.
God.
Um, and they were just so potent on that Alive 3, that Revenge Alive 3 tour, which Alive 3 was the Revenge tour. Um, so I would say that, so Parasite, Every Time I Look at You, man, when it comes to a Kiss ballad, and here again, it's off that Revenge. That was I was in my first real heavy duty relationship at the time when that came
Mhm.
out. I would have been like 16. and that song still hits me, man. If I could sing that song, yeah, of course I play a little bit. You guys know I play. If I could sing like that, I would play that song all the time. But I can't. Let's face it, I can't sing like Paul even.
Mm.
That one and gosh, probably. I'm just showing that my favorite is Revenge. Probably. God, I don't know. I'm second guess. I want to say Domino,
Uh-huh.
but then I'm second guess. No, that's wrong. But I love Domino, man. I
Yeah.
love the tongue in cheek that Gene delivered, his delivery in that song. So for those of you that don't know, Revenge is probably when we get down to brass tacks, Revenge is probably my favorite Kiss album.
Yeah. And see, and that's why I asked, because I figure if you kind of start nailing down those songs, it might really take you to an album.
How about you?
Well, without going into necessarily why, Turn on the Night, of course, which I was just talking about. Deuce, Love Gun, and as an honorable mention, which may piss off some people, diehard Kiss fans, Tears Are Falling. Love that track. Love it.
Man, I'll tell you what, you're not going to get any hate from me about Tears Are Falling, because I still love every time Heaven's on Fire comes on, I turn it up as loud as I go, dude.
Yes. I was so pumped that they played that on the last tour.
Yes.
They actually did Heaven's on Fire.
They haven't played it in forever.
Black Diamond.
Black Diamond. It is a masterpiece of a Kiss song. It really is there. And to see them do it live on, if you've got the Kiss anthology videos, to see them do that back in on the Alive tour, or on the even at I love that, watching that Black and White show from San Francisco, the Winterland Ballroom show. If you guys haven't seen that show from 1974, it would have been on the Hotter Than Hell tour. So they had just released Hotter Than Hell, and I think they were in San Francisco at the Winterland Ballroom.
Oh, yeah. That's the one that probably has the most incredible performance of Deuce ever.
Yes.
Yes.
And Firehouse. Dude, when Paul would put on the lights would start going. I'm gonna have to watch that tonight, man.
That'd be awesome. Let's be there.
I absolutely love that stuff. And then of course Nick, he's talking about the great versions on the MTV Unplugged album. Dude, high five. I said fist bump, whatever we're doing right now. We're not handshaking anymore. But no, totally. That's where I really got my love for 2000 Man. Ace playing it on an acoustic guitar, just Ace and an acoustic guitar, and then everybody else joining in. Eric Singer on the drums, and man, I think that might be my favorite version of 2000 Man, is that acoustic version on MTV Unplugged. Andrew says his favorite, Calling Dr. Love, Deuce, and
Love Gun and Deuce. Yep, right there with you.
And how can you?
God of Thunder.
Live.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
God of Thunder live is freaking awesome.
Strange Ways. Dude, Kiss gets so much hate. Why do they get crapped on so much? Because they're cartoon characters, like literally of themselves. I mean, why do people, even music lovers, hate Kiss? Why do people love to hate Kiss?
I think it's one of those things where they're so big that you have to hate kind of the king of the mountain kind of thing. I mean, because unlike a lot of bands, Kiss is in your face all the time. If it's not through merchandise, if it's just not through their sheer volume of catalog, it's just a certain level of, I'm not going to say jealousy, but it comes from the same place that jealousy comes from. You're so
Everybody
big.
wants to be what they were,
right.
what they are. Yeah, no,
right.
I feel you. I didn't know this. Old Fart is schooling us here. Black Diamond is about a prostitute the band knew. How well, they won't say. Really? I'm going to have to go back and listen to that. I mean, obviously, out on the streets for a living. She's only begun.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that it's some. Yeah, okay, I'm thinking out loud. But
yeah, I definitely, that's something I didn't know. Yeah. And New York Groove does count, Mitch, because, man, that's one that I still crank. I still jam to this day. That's killer. Killer. 100,000 Years was one that I didn't like. Welcome, Roger. 100,000 Years is one that actually on it's on here, side 3 on Alive. That was one that for years I would be like, dude, this is so boring. But the reason it was so boring is that's the first time I heard it with Peter's extended drum solo and it's like, dude, that is, to me, that's like the Moby Dick. It's a song that won't ever end.
Mm.
Domino on the Unplugged album. Yeah, shocked me. I'm glad to see people not hating on Kiss.
Yeah.
You know,
and the awesome thing is, like, everybody's right.
Everybody's right.
Like, not a single answer is wrong.
Andrew talking about his missing his OG Kiss Unplugged vinyl. He lost in a fire. Dude, don't even. That is like heartbreaking to even think about for all of us. You know, that's like, I hate you had to go through that, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did reissue it, but so the OG that you had, Andrew, they did those on colored vinyl as well. I think there was like a yellow one and a red one and then a black one, I think. What color was it? A standard black vinyl that you had, Andrew? Yeah, everybody's going crazy about Kiss. They did reissue Kiss Unplugged when they came out with those 2014 reissues, which are fantastic.
They have it over there.
Though they're the best sounding Kiss pressings, period.
I know I'm not supposed to bring it up, but yeah, those Kiss and the Rush reissues both sound phenomenal. Matter of fact, let me grab it really quick. Hold on.
Yeah, so those 2014 reissues, Andrew, are the best. So yeah, you can find that. I think they still, with it being a double LP, I think it's a little more expensive. It's about a $30 record, I think now. And they're getting harder and harder to find as they hang out a little bit longer.
This one right, and this copy is actually still sealed. I looked it up in Discogs just about a couple weeks ago, and they're going for like 35.
Yeah,
sealed. So, but yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Oh yeah. Vinyl Guru says, and any love for going blind in room service, baby? I could use a meal. Do what you feel. Take I can't say no. Right? Yeah, that's good stuff, man. And I think I'm going blind. I know how it should be. I'm 93, she's 16. What a pervert, man. That dude, what was he thinking about? Final Guru's got me going tonight, man. So he says he said it was the yellow. Oh no, Liam has the yellow vinyl. That's the one that I have as well. My OG is yellow. But I agree 100% with what Steve said. Harmless Rebel actually said the Unplugged reissue, the one that you have, that 2014 reissue, does sound 10 times better. The original doesn't sound good at all. Yeah. And honestly, there's not a whole lot of difference in value. I mean, I think those yellow ones, I think on Discogs you can get them for around $50, whereas the new ones are still going for like 30. You know, they're
30, 35. They're
getting hard, and they are getting harder to find, folks. If you don't, there's some of those that are actually out of print now. Well, they're all out of print, but some of them are sold out of print. Like the Paul Stanley solo album, goes for stinking stupid money. I'm trying to think. There's a couple others in that, and some of them, of course, were only available in the. So Kiss Online has all the 2014 reissues, even the Paul Stanley one. Now, what about the ones that they only put in the box, Angel? Which was what? Killers, Double Platinum. Double Platinum is one that they never reissued other than the box. You know, that Kiss. Right. What did they call the Kiss road case?
Yeah,
$1,500 road case or whatever it was. Ridiculous. Well, it's ridiculous, but I wish I would have popped the 1,500 now. Some of those are going for, like, Double Platinum's going for like $500 in and of itself, you know.
Insane. Yeah, that was the whole thing that prompted me to make that Kiss set and get all the 2014 reissues, is because how much the case was.
And I'm sure if you haven't seen it, Jeffrey Rusnock made a unbelievable road case for his. He's got a video on his channel. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. His road case is very, very similar. You guys both made those road cases, and they're amazing. You guys did a great job. I need to kind of commission you to make me one. You do so much better on your custom boxes than I do. You have the patience. I have my patience level is negative.
Oh man.
So Buzzbomb says there was a German double platinum from last year. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that either.
So some David Newton asked a great question here. Favorite unplugged. Now,
ooh.
Wow.
Are we talking? So we're talking full
MTV Unplugged.
A specific album.
I mean, you got to. That's a tough one.
Jeez.
I probably have to say Clapton, because I think that was the one that started it all, right? I mean, that the whole craze, the whole trend.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you're talking every single song on the album, I'm going with Clapton.
I'm going with Clapton as well.
With Clapton.
Yeah.
If you can talk about individual performances, like taking the one best track, actually, I would still go Clapton with Tears in Heaven, then Nirvana, then 10,000 Maniacs.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you have to go Clapton on that, though.
I completely agree. While I'm a very I love Nirvana, especially those first three albums. Well, all the way up to, was it Heart Shaped Box? Bleach, Nevermind, In Utero.
Nevermind.
Heart Shaped Box was on In Utero, right?
Somebody tell us.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like I'm saying the wrong thing.
Running together right now, but
yeah.
I'm a little bit more than just a casual fan, but I would have to still say Clapton, but Nirvana comes in a close second. That there was something special about that Nirvana Unplugged show.
Yeah, there
really was.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So what happens is that Mitch asks that question again, and I keep, these are going by so fast. I see it, and I see David, but then I'll see Mitch pop up, or I'll see Mitch, and then I'll see David, and by the time I click on it, I'm looking at somebody else. So that's how I'm getting confused here, guys. So Ron says they only had the 3 studio albums.
Okay, and then get that one by Andrew right below, where it's asking Nirvana, Neil Young. Or Bob Dylan.
I think we all know your answer, man.
Wait, are you asking which there? You prefer Nirvana, Neil Young, or Bob Dylan? If that's the question, I would definitely take Neil Young.
This is gonna shock anybody who's watched my channel for years. If you haven't watched my channel in the last year, this will shock you. I softened my stance a lot on Neil Young. 5 years ago, I would have said you can take every Neil Young record and burn them, as far as I'm concerned. But I've softened my stance quite a bit on Neil Young, and that was partially due to Brandon turning me on. He's like, dude, he knows my taste. He knows what I kind of like, and he's like, do you have? Because even though I thought I hated him, I had quite a bit of Neil Young in the collection just from picking up collections over the years. I would have given them to people. I gave away 2 or 3 copies of Freedom, and that's a hard record to find, but I didn't care. And I still don't care, honestly, because they went to people. I think David Michael got a copy, and Ben. You guys remember Ben? Ben's not making videos anymore.
Yeah.
What's his new channel? Has some the band that he loved was God, now I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, Ben, you guys, I'm sure y'all remember Ben, but I sent one to him and he loved it. But yeah, you said look through your records and see if you have
Comes a time.
Comes a Time.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, I do. And you're like, give that a listen. And I did. And was like, okay, this isn't the whiny, bitchy Neil Young that I thought I hated.
Mhm.
So from there, they came out with, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago? They came out with that Record Store Day reissue of
Yeah.
Harvest Moon,
Hmm.
and wow, what an album! That album is freaking killer,
Yeah.
absolutely killer. Vinyl Guru, seeing Neil Young at the Massey Hall venue while watching Robert Plant like 5 years ago. Wow.
Wow. That's a hell of a sentence to be able to write. That's awesome.
Absolutely, right? Cinnamon Girl, yeah.
Hmm.
Neil Young is awesome, Andrew. I totally,
Yeah,
totally
and
agree
and
now.
the thing I think that again makes Neil so great is he's one of those artists that could really just jump across genres like it's nothing. I mean, he can go with that pure kind of in your face classic rock stuff of like, keep on rocking in the free world, but then throw him in front of a piano and let him do just like a soft, almost ballad type piece like After the Gold Rush, or the electronic stuff or whatever of Reactor, or going into trance. I mean, country rock, um psychedelic pill, a lot of kind of heavy fuzzy psych guitar type of stuff. Neil just knows music, period. And that's not even going back when you're getting into, don't forget about Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and Buffalo Springfield. That guy has been doing some serious stuff for decades,
right.
and
He
just
he,
awesome.
he's amazing, and Ron, it's isn't it crazy how we all get turned on to different things and how we get exposed to it? Yeah, that's crazy right there. Talk about connection. Yeah,
It's like, how you didn't even think those connections would ever come into play? Seals and Cross and Typo Negative.
right. Neil Young is one that took a while to grow on me, but have to be in the right mood. I kind of have
Yep.
to be in the right mood too. Another one for me, David, was Springsteen. It took a long time for Springsteen to grow on me. While I liked a lot of Springsteen's hooky, more who didn't like Dancing in the Dark and
Right.
songs like that, anything off the Born in the USA album.
Yeah.
Or it's hard to not like Jungle Land, or all these different things. But for most people, I think Dancing in the Dark or anything off Born in the USA, um,
And what was the album right after that? Um,
A Tunnel of Love.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Tunnel of Love, I think, is still one of his greatest
Oh,
albums.
fantastic. However, for the longest time, I had to be in the right mood, and it was just background music. But
Hmm.
now, man, Springsteen to me is he's like a god, a musical god. I mean, a legend, an
Hmm.
absolute freaking legend.
Yeah.
And it's going to be something. I mean, he's getting up there too. But another one of those guys that I hit. That of course we get struck with this pandemic and then this COVID-19, and it put everything that we had all of our hopes and dreams and wishes have been like, and we're confined to staring at four walls and a ceiling, and a floor
Hmm.
for the most part. Uh, and the biggest thing is it put Springsteen's long-awaited tour, which they hadn't announced any dates yet, but he was going to go back out with the E Street Band, this
Wow.
year, and that put that on hold. Heaven
Yeah.
forbid. I hate to even think. I know where I'm. You guys know what I'm thinking, but I hate to say this out loud and then something happened. But heaven forbid, some of these legends like the Stones, they were on tour. Melinda and a bunch of you guys probably had tickets to see the
Yeah.
Stones. They were coming to St. Louis. They were going to play the big stadium. heaven forbid, what if something happens now, to one of these guys, and you missed your one and only opportunity? For some people, that could be their one and only opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This thing we're going through is hitting everybody, pretty hard, man. Oh yeah, the song he sang in The Wrestler, that was awesome. That's another awesome. Nick mentions Nebraska. So for me, being a huge Steve Earle fan, that was the first album as a whole that I truly connected to for Springsteen. The naked beauty of it, to me, stripped down, just Bruce, a harmonica, a little bit of a piano and guitar. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, the Atlantic City is definitely one of my favorite songs by him. So that was what kind of pulled me to that album.
Yeah. And then, of course, how can you talk about Springsteen without talking about Darkness? Another timeless, epic album. And Born to Run, Thunder Road, man, just killer. And what's sad is to think that for most people, the only thing they know about Springsteen is
Born in the USA.
Oh, yeah. Born in the USA, Born Street to Philadelphia. Because that was in the Philadelphia movie. Yeah, Keith Richards will never die. He snorts COVID for lunch.
That's true. No kidding. It's like it wakes me up.
The old fart still says the river. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, that's much like Kiss. You're not wrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, Mitch, the John Prine, that was a tough one to swallow, man. That was a tough one. But what was great about it, though, I mean, not that you can't say that there's anything great about a legend passing, is the fact that so many people were talking about it, that I guarantee you a lot of new people were exposed to the genius that was John Prine because of his passing. Mm-hmm. It happened with everybody. With Petty, it happened with Prince. It happened with Rush. It happened with Bowie. We're losing a lot of them. That's the thing, guys. Whenever we're as we continue to get older, we are now just beginning to experience losing our legends.
Right.
People that meant so much and mean so much to us musically, we're losing them.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to lose them every day, every year.
Yeah.
We just got to get ready for it. Oh, Clarence. Yeah. When Clarence passed away, the big man, dude. Absolutely. Bruce, if you guys haven't seen the Western Stars movie that Bruce did for his most recent album, Western Stars, which is an amazing album. And I'm going to put Brandon back in here because wow. You picked that one up on just a straight up recommendation. I don't think you even heard it. It was just me talking about it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of my favorite Bruce albums. I mean, golly, it's so good.
It's a very smooth album. Again, I always kind of describe albums between that. There's some songs that you like to sing and you really get into, and then there's some albums you just throw on just because of the way they make you feel. Even if you don't know all the words, you don't know every single song. And that album is a prime example of that. Like, I just want to feel good for a moment. Throw that album on. That's all you need to know.
And much like you, I think we both completely agree. Side 3 of that album is probably, it's a flawless side.
Magnificent.
If there ever was one.
Yeah.
The rest of the album ain't bad either. But
I'm gonna spin that as soon as we finish this. Actually.
Oh man, it's so freaking good.
I'm talking about it.
Somebody. Okay, so I don't want to get too far off track because we were talking about the Springsteen and I talked about the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, the Western Stars movie, it's basically just the Bruce and his band. Not necessarily not the E Street Band, but he put together him and his wife, and there are a couple members of the E Street Band in there, but they play in his barn out at his property, and it's a very beautiful, well produced piece. But it's visually stunning. It's a masterpiece. But they just play that album from front to back, and I think I much prefer the live version. They actually released an album, Western Stars Live, from the soundtrack from the movie. Brandon, if you haven't heard it, I prefer the live stuff. Listening to them live, they're that good. This band is that good. Plus, Bruce in the movie, he in typical Bruce fashion, he tells the stories behind those movies or behind those songs. So those songs that you have lived with for a year, and they're so ingrained in you for that year, you're like, wow, this is what he was thinking whenever he wrote that song, or this is what he was going through. And you might think it's about this, but when he tells the story, you're like, wow, you know what? I see it completely different. So David said,
cool.
Prine is an artist he's not familiar with. What's a good album to start with? So simple from me. The very first self-titled debut, John Prine, is unbelievable. Everybody's going to probably have a little bit of a different. If you're a Prine fan, you've probably got, again, his catalog is tremendous. It's how huge his catalog is. But I would say I would start, David, with a bookend of Prine. His first self-titled is amazing, or his last Tree of Forgiveness. Any one of those two are perfect albums from John Prine. You can't go wrong. Yeah, definitely check those out, man. And you're talking about his last studio album, David. You talking about Springsteen's last studio album, Western Stars, or are you talking about Prine's last studio album, Tree of Forgiveness? Because yeah, if you've heard Tree of Forgiveness and you like it, pick up the album, dude. It's killer, unbelievable. So Brandon, how do we want to wrap this up? First of all, I want to thank everybody I want to thank you, Brandon, for allowing us to get this off the ground. I think it went well. I had a great time. I want to thank everybody for joining us. You guys made it awesome. Before we leave, though, I do want, if you guys have any particular questions for either myself or Brandon, shoot them at us now, and we'll answer them before we wrap things up here. We got about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, most definitely. And yeah, Billy, I mean, thanks for kind of bringing me on board and kind of walking me through, getting all this stuff set up. So it's been an absolute blast. I mean, I can't believe it's been almost 3 hours. Are you kidding me?
I know, right?
Awesome.
But I'd be remiss to not mention Steve, Harmless Rebel, in this, because he invited me for his live feed last week, and you see this powered by StreamYard. I think it's a great tool. It's a free tool. If you guys want to do these live streams, it's very easy. The control panel is easy to work. I love the way it lays out. I think it works very well. I mean, hell, even Dylan said it himself. He's like, wow, look at this. This is professional. It's good stuff.
It is really cool. So, and I think we may, like, next week, the three of us with Steve might get together on one, right?
Yeah, we might do a 3-way, or we talked about doing a 4-way with Mitch as well. So it'd be me.
Yeah. That. Oh my gosh, that's just too much musical knowledge for me to jump into. I was gonna sit back and listen on that.
And like I said, I'm totally down for the Headbangers Ball. Give me 10. We might, if we get a bunch of us, we might have to make it like a give me 5, or just pick a couple bands that we were really, you would not know about if it weren't for Headbangers Ball.
Right.
I went out and bought that album because of Headbangers Ball. Let's do a
cool.
Rumble live on that.
That sounds pretty cool.
If you guys want to be, any of you guys want to be involved in that, shoot me a message here or on Facebook, or let us know in this video. And the only thing I don't like about this is the comments don't come through when this posts live, or when it posts on my channel, on my page. The comments that we're seeing will not be there. I don't know how to get them to turn on, and maybe brother Steve knows, but I couldn't get them to come on. Yeah. So let's answer a couple questions here, Brandon.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we leave, like I said, thank you guys for coming in.
Very much.
Ron, dude. I know a lot of us have sent things back and forth, and that's just the way we do,
You know, Ron, honestly, on that, with that record I sent you, anything that I did for that was just because I wanted to see the look on your face. Like that's just how much I knew you would be excited about getting that piece. It was so worth it.
Right, right. And
So
Buzzbomb,
worth it.
I think it's Sean, right? I'm pretty sure. Let's go Buzzbomb for now, but I think it's Sean. Thank you, man. He makes a great point. You guys made this live thing really what it was. Brandon and I just talked a little bit, but I loved how you guys were interacting in the chat, and it was great. Not just interacting with us, but interacting with each other. You know,
Right.
I think that's great. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. It was
Appreciate it, guys.
okay. It was an okay time.
Thanks, Mitch.
If you sat on here for 3 hours listening to our goofy butts, I think you had a pretty good time. Uh, wouldn't have much to. Nah, dude, the whole thing, David. We all think we wouldn't have anything to really.
I know. I was thinking like there's all kind of comments and questions that he put in there, but I think that right there is a perfect example of the modest nature of so many people in the VC that do so much and know so much, and yet they feel like they're not really doing much and they don't really know much.
Right.
I mean,
Most of us feel that same way. So Steve said, if you leave the video minimized, the questions should show. Yeah, I'll have to look and see. I normally leave the video minimized. I don't watch, but then again, I may have been watching it on my phone, Mitch, and then I look down in the comments and it says 0. So I'll pull it up on the computer later and see. Hopefully, either way, you guys know what it is. So the comments were on when I watched. William said they were on yesterday's test stream. Okay, well, if the comments came on if anybody, well, I'll check later and I'll go back through and see if these show up. But yeah, so Ron said he was thrilled. David says if we ever find ourselves in the Lexington, Kentucky area, so Lexington is. Trying to think. That's where Melinda does a lot of her shopping, I think.
you don't know what you just asked for, Dave.
Hey,
we're gonna have the whole crew coming your way.
We have talked about making a road trip somewhere, and so we may actually hit that. We may just make a Kentucky road trip one time, Brandon, and we'll hit Lexington and Bowling Green. Because we got to go to Mellow Mats.
That'd be awesome.
So, David, how far is Bowling Green from Lexington? Is it a couple hours? Hour and a half, couple hours? What is it? But we definitely need to make that happen, Brandon.
That'd be a blast.
So Brandon, Angel's got a question there. I'll let you.
Yeah. So since I'm new in the VC, when did you guys start collecting vinyl officially? I started collecting officially in 2006-ish, 2007-ish, somewhere right around there. I had just wasn't really into records that much at that time. And actually, I went into a store to buy some CDs and saw a dollar bin and bought like 6 or 7 records. I didn't even have a record player. And they just like sat in my house for almost a year. And finally, I picked up a little $50 record player, and it was just the bug hit. And next thing you know, I was just buying crap left and right. So it was like 2007-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I pretty much have always bought vinyl, even when I was into CDs and cassettes and things like that. I was that guy that even though I didn't have I'm going to catch a lot of grief for this, but even though I didn't have an active working record player or a turntable at the time, I was still buying vinyl. My turntable wouldn't work, other than buying a thrift store or a yard sale turntable in the 90s or early 2000s, you really didn't have many options,
Mm-hmm.
So I would say probably about the same time, mid 2000s, probably 04, 05, 06, is when I got a new turntable, piece of crap, Sony plastic junk.
That's what mine was.
Yeah. But the beauty of it is it got me back into vinyl deep.
Yep.
And I was actively seeking out stuff, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, even though both of us have, tremendous collections, a lot of it was stuff that we've probably picked up over the last 10 to 15 years,
Yeah.
for the most part. Yeah, Ben, I couldn't agree that this, not just, I mean, I'm sure there's other communities out there, but and every community has its troll, or its trolls, or its people that are just there to stir the pot. But I think for the most part, the VC is a group of tremendous, excellent individuals. When you get right down to it, there are some weirdos. Dude, let's face it, we're all a little bit weird, right?
Very much so.
Mitch, he's waiting for another St. Louis record show. Dude, let's just get. I'll take any record show at this point, Mitch.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So David says it's 2 hours. So we can, dude. We've talked for 3 hours. 2 hours is nothing for me and Brandon.
I know. You could have drove and had an hour of digging on now. Was either you guys were binge watching a Three Stooges DVDs? I flipped it.
It was either going to be us or the Three Stooges. It was the Two Stooges, or the Two Goons, or the Three Stooges.
Quite frankly, I probably would have chosen the Three Stooges because I love the Three Stooges. I have the box set with every single episode, and it is I love the Three Stooges.
Look at this. Where'd it go? There's so many coming in. There we go. Jeff, I already have Billy's autograph, but I still need Brandon's.
Coming your way, man. I'll find something to send to you with a nice autograph on it.
Yeah, the storage bins.
Dig the record storage bins. Where did you get them from, or did you make them? Yeah, actually, we just had the first two that I had. I had a friend of mine just make them. Her dad had some extra wood just kind of laying out, because again, you're talking about a box. I mean, it's like it can't be any more simple than that. But then after I had those, and when I decided to expand, I got like 6 or 7 more, which is really an easy way to do it. I just took the measurements of, 2 front pieces, 2 sides, and a bottom. And I just took those measurements to Home Depot and bought a big sheet. And I told them, these are the sizes I need cut out of the sheet. And they just cut up all the pieces.
That's exactly how my dad and I did it as well. Of course, mine are mine are stair stepped. Mm-hmm. I have two levels, where yours is one level, but the same thing. I don't have the power tools and shit to
right. And I think out of each sheet they could cut enough to make 3. So I just came home with all the pieces and just screwed them together. I mean, literally, you're making a box. And of course, there's a can of paint that I keep, and I just make sure I paint everything the same color so everything looks seamless. But yeah, that's you're making a box. That simple.
Yeah, it's good stuff, and I'm sure I've shown mine in my videos, but I also was very curious with Brandon's, because I think eventually I'm going to have all my stuff front facing. You can see this behind me. I've got the majority of my collection is bookshelf style, and I hate looking at spines. As I get older, I don't want. Man, I don't want to be looking at spines. I can't. Yeah. Eyes can't take it,
Yeah.
But yeah, all this behind you, this is kind of the backdrop. I changed these out for different videos, as a lot of us do. But behind those are, just your standard, just like everybody. But I hate that. So I think I'm in, fingers crossed, I'd say in the next year or 2, if I'd have had the money set aside at this point, because there is a little bit of cost that's associated with it, but more than that, it's the time, which we all have an abundance of right now, right? I wish I would have had the money saved up to buy all the materials and have had that as a project to work on.
Oh yeah,
dude, I would have had all my stuff, because I have plenty of room, and Brandon can he's been over several times. I mean, I have plenty of room to make it pretty killer, and that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do eventually.
Yeah, and the one thing just to add too, I think the really cool thing about that is when you have it set up like that, being able to dig and just look through your collection becomes so much more enjoyable than trying to do the spines. I can't tell you the number of nights I've just played around in my collection, pulling out stuff, looking at covers, reading liner notes and stuff like that, and realize the last 45 minutes, I didn't even spin a record at all. It was just enjoying the actual artwork and everything of the collection. And this setup just makes it so much easier to do.
Absolutely. And I'll even touch on that as well. So I have all my hard rock and heavy metal front face. That's the stuff we've got, like 700. My dad made and I made 2 shelves that hold between 600 and 700 albums. Like I said, they're just like Brandon's front face, but they're stair stepped, two levels. And I've got all my stuff like that. I find myself going through, like you said, just looking at the artwork, but listening to albums based on that I wouldn't listen to. Like, I got so much stuff over here. It's easy to forget about it when you're
right.
fine. But when
exactly.
it's a picture and you're like, oh man, I haven't listened to this in forever, because as much as we are attached to the music on that album, we are just as much attached and associated with the artwork on that album as well.
Exactly.
Like I said, it's one of our quirks. Baraka P-Dub, well, thanks for joining us, man. So, another legend, another freaking YouTuber. Like, dude, I almost feel like sometimes we're the Wayne world. We're not worthy. Awesome. So yeah, Nick actually asked that question about those. Angel, I think everyone in the VC is awesome. There are a few snobs who think they know it all. Whatever. Like you said, you just did. Everybody. I'm not going to deny that there aren't cliques within the VC. I think we all can agree that there are cliques, but as with any community, as with any circle of friends, you tend to get along. You hang out with the people you get along with, right? I know you and I have talked about this on several occasions, Brandon. Yeah. You tend to gravitate towards people you have things in common with, and people that you feel treat you like you want to be treated, and you do the same.
Right. Right. And it's hard not to now, again, coming from someone who's been in the VC from the very first days before it was even the VC. The first couple of years of it, everyone knew everyone because there was only this many people. So right. Everybody knew everybody. Every single thread video that came up, everyone did a response. Every single contest, everyone did a response. You just can't do that today. This thing is so freaking big. People all over the freaking world. I mean, it's amazing to see that difference from the beginning and now. So,
and I have to just interrupt you for 1 second, because you're the best at this, Brandon. You hit it right on the head. The community is so large, it's impossible to watch everybody's video anymore. Don't feel bad because you don't watch videos, guys. Don't feel bad because you can't catch my newest video. Don't feel bad because you can't catch Brandon's newest video. And don't feel bad because you can't make a video every week or two videos a week. Don't feel bad. Make a video because you're inspired to make a video, and comment on a video when you're inspired to comment on a video. That's really all we can do. You're one of the best, and I'm not just yanking your chain here. I told Melinda this. I've told everybody. You're one of the best. That you've got 1 million subs, yet you still are one of the best guys at watching. You watch more videos and you comment on more videos than I see a lot of people doing. And I'm talking a lot of people with a hell of a lot less subs than you. That's why people look up to you so much, I think, man.
Oh man, I appreciate that, man. I really do. And that really does mean a lot to me, because it's, again, being in the VC so long and then having those times you're really active, it does kind of weigh on my mind that I always want to stay connected. But even in the context of staying connected, I don't want to make it phony. Like, I'm not going to come to your video and try to put a comment just because that's what you're supposed to do. So there's tons of people's videos where I'll watch them. I'll watch a good chunk of it. Maybe I don't get back to make a comment. I'm always one of those thumbs up at the very least if I'm checking out your videos. But the biggest thing that I've always said with everyone that I do is that if you leave a comment on one of my videos, I'm reading your comment and I'm making a response to it, even if it's just a thumbs up and a heart. Right. That means I actually read your comment, who said it. If you're going to take the time to come to my channel, I'm going to pay you that respect to let you know I'm reading what you say and truly taking it in. But outside of that, like even when you're talking about on the contest and watching everyone's videos, at some point you just have to kind of accept I cannot do a response to every single thread and contest because there are 15 of them coming out every single day.
Yeah.
But when one just kind of hits you and you have to start making picks, I guess I should do this one because
yeah,
you know, so
we
it's
also do
it's okay just to let it go where it takes you.
the more people you sub to, the more you tend to be like almost feel guilty. Like, man, I went through this. I'm sure we all have gone through it.
Mhm.
If you haven't, you will. Trust me.
Yeah.
I quit making contest entry videos. I didn't even make an entry into yours because it's like, man, number one, the time at certain times of the year, a lot of you guys that know me, there's certain times of the year where I can't even, I don't know what day it is. But at certain times of the year, I'm sitting here twiddling my damn thumbs. So you'll see more of me. But
Right.
I felt guilty that I have so many friends in the vinyl community. You've all been great to me. I felt like, man, if I can't make it for him, then why could I? I don't want you to feel like I don't like you anymore than
Right.
I shouldn't feel that way. You should just be inspired to make
Right.
a video and support your buddy, you know?
Right.
Um, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be your buddy. If you want to support a new channel, give them a shout out in your video. Because hell, even if it's not a new channel, look at Andrew Lovell. I just the dude's been making videos for years.
Yep.
And I get turned off to him. I think you may have had given him a shout out one time in one of your videos. I'm like, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, and David, you're asking there about the record store day. Again, with the record store that I work at, they're really kind of in just somewhat of a hold pattern. They're not 100% sure. So they just did the whole, yeah, we're not sending the stuff out yet. We'll kind of let you know when we think the day is going to pop up. So it's still kind of a question mark up in the air of when it's going to be. They're
Yeah.
going to do it, but
I was showing this one as well because these two were pretty much the same. What are our
yeah,
thoughts? I honestly, I don't think it's going to happen in June.
I don't either.
No.
I don't either.
And if you want my honest opinion, I hope it doesn't happen in June, because I don't think any of us. I mean, what are we? 8 weeks away from
Yeah.
that. I don't think that a lot of your. So the whole spirit and point of Record Store Day is about independent mom and pop shops.
Right.
How can any independent small mom and pop shop be closed down for 3 or 4 months with very little to no foot traffic, very little to no revenue other than what they're selling on Discogs or eBay, have the money to pre-order all this stuff? I know a lot of that stuff, they do have a little bit of a runway, but how can you do that unless they decide we're going to give you guys, how awesome would that be? We're going to send you guys this stuff on good faith.
Yeah.
That if you want to really jumpstart the record community again, the vinyl community and the mom and pop shops and the small, which is really what Record Store Day is supposed to be about. Wink.
Right.
But we all know it's not. It's the almighty dollar drives Record Store Day, but let's not get off on that tangent. If they really want these mom and pop shops to thrive and survive after this whole pandemic is over, dude, send them the stuff and if we think we're able to go out and participate in Record Store Day like we always do, those record stores will survive. If they don't, if I got a bad feeling about a lot of these stores. One of my favorites, Trusty Courts. I know yours as well.
Yeah.
They're a new store on the Illinois side of the river. I said November they will be open 2 years. So
I would say it's barely 2 years.
Barely 2 years. So
yeah.
He was, as of March 13th or March 14th, whenever things pretty well shut down in Illinois. Well, I live in Illinois. Brandon's in Missouri. And Illinois is we're a lot worse off than Brandon is over there, and Mitch is over there in Missouri, because Illinois, we go by the way of Chicago, unfortunately, and where I'm at is a world away from Chicago, guys. Yeah, so we've been shut down. We've literally been on a shutdown order here for 6 weeks, and I think we are still in it until the 30th. Whereas Missouri, you guys are pretty well getting ready to open things back up, right? I mean,
yeah, but people definitely have more flexibility now because they've raised a few of the orders. So yeah,
right,
yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. You know, record store day. If you want my honest opinion, I kind of don't think it's going to happen in June. My wish is that they just make one big record store day in Black Friday. Let's just because I think if we're not back to some sort of normal by Thanksgiving, will we ever be?
Yeah, I think we'll be back to a new normal. I think that's going to be the key. But I think just like everything else, these big things hit. I mean, it's not the first time that the world has experienced this mega level of pandemics, and most of us don't remember the Spanish flu and that type of thing. So we'll work our way through it. We'll get back to something that will feel like normal, even though if we look back on it, we'll be like, oh yeah, I can see how we're doing all these things differently, but we'll get close to it. We'll get close to it.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah.
You said Spanish flu, and I start thinking of Tone Loc, little Spanish fly. That's how my mind works, man. Jeffrey, thanks, guys. Jeffrey's got an early 5 a.m. work, but he couldn't stop watching. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for stopping by, man. I appreciate it.
Us. Brandon, looks like you've got some new subs.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Nick.
Me, on the other hand.
Nice.
So, guys, thank you so much. We'll have to definitely do this again. It's been fun.
It's been awesome. 3 hours and 15 minutes. Holy cow.
That's right. Crazy.
That's awesome, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take care.